Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving ESPN 1025. The Game. We are live on this beautiful Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are live at First Horizon Park where the Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds tonight, 7:05. Caroline Fenton's team. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how's it going?
It is just fantastic today. By the way, I want to thank the Sounds. We're out here at First Horizon Park. And, you know, we're out here to tell people, come out to the game. I think Michelle Knezovic is throwing out the first pitch.
She is on Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yes.
So that's exciting. But, like, we're out here to tell people, you know, proud partners of the Sounds on ESPN 94.9. We love the Sounds. Go, Sounds, go. But I love the fact that on the Jumbotron here, it says everything that I need to know as far as telling people. And then right next to it says First Horizon Park.
That's all you need.
Tonight, 7:05, first pitch. It's a huge sports week in college football tomorrow. The Vols have a big one against Pittsburgh. And yes, the Titans take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I went over to the Titans facility today, and I was listening to Julio Jones and A.J. Brown and Taylor Lewan and Mike Vrabel. And one thing that stood out to me, Vrabel was talking about the anxiety of week one and not knowing, you know, like in week one, you think you feel good about your team. You think you feel good about the situation, but you just don't know. And I look at this Arizona game, and I look at the two teams, Caroline, and I see the Titans, and there's a part of me that is just like, all right. I feel like there's a giant, you know, sports car, a Maserati, a Bentley, a Bugatti, you know, just underneath that, you know, car cover, and they're just getting ready to take it off and unleash the offense. Unleash Julio Jones and A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, and then put in Chester Rogers and Anthony Ferguson and Ryan Tannehill on his way to the MVP season, which a lot of us think that if Tannehill gets the right things to go his way, that'll work. There's the defense that was so bad last year. They totally redid. They looked good in the preseason for whatever that's worth, which is nothing as of, you know, 2 days from now. But there's this excitement for it. Then there's the unknown. And Mike Vrabel was talking about it, to paraphrase, about Arizona was down 10-0 in their first game last year, and they blocked a kick. And then they went on and blocked a kick, and they won that game. And in week one, week two, like you never know. You never know that early in the year. You know, what's going to happen? Is the ball going to bounce your way? I mean, heck, the Titans 3 years ago started the season in Miami. Mariota banged up his elbow and had nerve damage for the rest of the season. There were 2 different rain delays. The game took 8 hours to play, and Delaney Walker broke his ankle. So that was a day. And there's just something about opening day. Like, I don't know about you. Like, I am obviously, I'm not coaching. I'm not playing. I have a pretty good feeling for how this game's going to go. I think the Titans are going to win. But you never know. And that's what I feel like, these butterflies in my stomach as far as trying to analyze what we're going to see in week one.
And that's the thing, is you really never know. I mean, yesterday I was saying, okay, I would take the Bucks minus 15.5 if I could. I mean, the Cowboys are going to be absolute trash. And the Bucks just barely squeaked by with a win with the field goal with 2 seconds left in the game.
I know.
So you really never know. And I think especially with this Titans team, with all the changes that they've made, with all the additions that they've made, that it makes you think that this team should be really good. But I think that's the excitement. That's almost the anxiousness of just like, okay, I want to hurry up and see it already. But I'm nervous because the standard and the expectations are so high that what if the Titans don't necessarily get it together in week one?
Well, and it's not so much like, it's not exactly the what if they don't get it together in week one. It's, to your point, like if they go out there and they're just not, you know, they didn't practice a ton together out there. The defense, Bud Dupree's coming off of a knee injury. They got a right tackle in David Quessenberry that I honestly don't feel great about. Now, Quessenberry, you know, did yeoman's work as a third-string left tackle last season. But I don't feel great about him as my starting right tackle. I understand all that. I hear all that. I get all that. There's a part of me, though, that thinks, you know, how big is this week one game? Indianapolis plays Seattle this weekend. I expect Indianapolis to lose. They might win. Again, as we're saying, week one, you never know. I expect Indianapolis to lose. You play Seattle week 2 and Indy week 3. I mean, that is next week on the road at Seattle. That's a tough one. Like, that is a tough game on your schedule. It's a much nicer to know you're going into Indy 1-1 than it is the idea of you could be going into Indy 0-2. Indy could win one of their first 2 games, and now this Indy team we don't think's any good, with a quarterback we don't like, all of a sudden starts to get some confidence, and I think that's bad for the Titans. And not only that, the Titans, back to the thought of the unknown. How good do you feel about the offense? Like how, as far as, nervousness about the offense?
I think I am equally high on the Titans offense and nervous about the Titans offense.
I'm nervous about the Titans offense too. How nervous are you about the Titans defense?
I am nervous about the Titans defense, but weirdly enough, I'm not as nervous about it because I think that the expectations for the Titans defense aren't incredibly high. That I think that I'm more nervous about the Titans offense because the Titans need the offense to be really, really good and the Titans need the defense to be average.
So I'm really worried about the defense.
I'm not,
because they were
worried.
so bad last year, and it's like I was so ready to throw Shane Bowen under the bus. I was so ready for them to fire him. Like and I knew they weren't going to because I know how Vrabel is. I was so ready for them to fire him and to go get a defensive coordinator. Yeah, I thought it would be Matt Patricia or somebody that's a Patriot guy that Vrabel knows or a Texan guy that Vrabel knows, and they didn't. They doubled down on it, and this time, or not this time last year, but last year when they said that Shane Bowen was the one calling the defenses and running the meetings, a.k.a. practically the defensive coordinator, I thought, well, then he's got to go because it was so bad last year. He's got to go. Get him out. And here I am today thinking that I think Bowen might do a good job. The defense might be okay, but in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, remember how bad it was last year with him coordinating it. And oh boy. So I feel good. I feel good about this game. I feel good about the Titans' chances. I feel good about the Titans. I think the Titans should win on Sunday. I think they should win. And yet the nervousness of week 1 looms very large within me.
I'm with you because I just don't really necessarily I think I know what to expect. But then again, I don't really know exactly what the expectations are. What can this team do? What is this team capable of? And I think I have a little bit of nervousness because it's Arizona. And because I don't really know exactly what to think about Arizona. Because overall, the Titans feel like a better team. But the Arizona Cardinals have elements to their team that could absolutely get a win on Sunday.
Oh, the Arizona Cardinals are one of these weird
sneaky
teams that, I don't think they're good. And I know some people that think they're good and some people don't. The Athletic did their power rankings and said Arizona was the team that was the furthest across the board amongst their writers in terms of judging who's good, who's not. Somebody had them as high as 7th. Somebody had them as low as 25th. And I think back to the Cardinals, and it's like, hey, they got DeAndre Hopkins, and they got Chandler Jones, and they got Budda Baker, and they got J.J. Watt. And, I don't love Kyler Murray, but I didn't love Josh Allen, and then he became a great player. And I didn't love Lamar Jackson, and he became a great player. So this is not something that is unknown. The feelings I have of Kyler Murray. I am, when Vrabel talked about having the anxiety of a week 1 and the not knowing, I have week 1 anxiety. I'm excited. Don't get it twisted. I'm excited for Sunday. I'm excited to see this offense, again, take the cover off the Porsche. I'm excited to see if Shane Bowen actually wasn't the problem and that adding in Bud Dupree and adding in Jackrabbit Jenkins and all these draft picks on defense, that's going to be a big deal. I am excited. But I'm nervous. And I'm not so nervous as we talked about the other day when I asked the question, how good are the Arizona Cardinals? I'm not so nervous about the idea of, are the Arizona Cardinals a good team or not? As I just said, I don't think they're a great team. But I'm more so nervous that the Titans screw it up, that Arizona throws something at them that they're not prepared for, that Arizona is a better team than we thought they were, that the Titans, aren't, as oiled up as they will be in 3 or 4 weeks. All of those things. That the Titans kicker put into a big situation might be an issue. I'm nervous. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. And I wonder if everybody else is the same kind of nervous or if everybody else is the same kind of like, oh, it's our season this year. Julio Jones, that Arizona team is no good, and you might be right about that. The Arizona team is no good, and we're going to go get them, and here we go. And I'm telling you, as we get closer to it, I get a little bit more nervous. There was 2 years ago, they started the year against the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland, and it was like the game because I want to say that was the year that they had acquired Odell Beckham and they had acquired Jarvis Landry, and everybody was talking about, Baker Mayfield was the rookie of the year, and everyone was just jumping up and down about how excited they were to see the Cleveland Browns. And Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were doing the game, not because it was the Titans. And the whole summer, I knew the Titans were going to go in there and smack Cleveland. I knew it because I knew that Floyd didn't think Freddie Kitchens was any good of a coach. And then I saw their antics during the preseason. They get in fights, and, Freddie Kitchens, we're not going to back down from no one. Okay, all right. And I knew that Baker, everybody was high on Baker after his rookie season. And I'm like, look, Baker had a good rookie year against the Bengals and the Falcons. And Arizona last year started off, I believe, 6-2. Or 6-3. They were a hot team early in the season. I'm nervous. But again, I'm excited. I'm excited because this feels like, when I was over there today, it feels like a team that knows they're good. It feels like a team that knows what to do, that Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Taylor Lewan, Mike Vrabel, when they were talking, especially A.J. Brown's press conference today, when they were talking, I got the sense of, everybody's relaxed, everybody's calm, but everybody knows what the task at hand is. This is a professional team. They are a veteran team. They've had success in the league. They've gone through tough times together in the league. I feel good about the season. So everyone's going to call me a flip-flopper today. I can just hear Chris Sanders calling me pancake right now.
Do you think this is the highest that you've been on a Titans team in a while? Going into the season, going into week one.
So last year they were in the AFC, or 2 years ago they were in the AFC title game. So when they started against Denver, this was a team that was a half away from the Super Bowl, basically. Right. And I felt, I can't exactly remember how I felt. I felt look, they got a lot of work to do. And then they added Clowney, and I thought that was a no factor. And everybody else thought that was going to, be the cat's meow. And I think I was a little nervous about Tannehill doing it again. Could Tannehill have the second good year after the first good year? But they went to Denver, and they beat Denver barely. They barely beat Jacksonville, and they barely beat Minnesota to start 3-0. And I remember after that thinking those three teams weren't very good. And that Minnesota game they played was awful. That game was terrible. Tannehill, even on the game-winning drive, Tannehill threw a ball into the hands of the defensive back, and he dropped it. And I'm like, man, that was awful. And I think that, Yom Kippur maybe was, the Monday after the Minnesota game. So I was off for that Titans Monday. So I was back on Tuesday. And I remember on Tuesday being like, I don't think the Titans played very well. I'm glad they're 3-0, but I don't think they played very well. And the callers just let me have it. Just Jared, we're 3-0. How can you not be happy? 3-0, 3-0. And I'm like, I just don't. So to answer your question, because this is a really, big question. I'm trying not to be a slave to the moment.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
And I think that's
kind of,
fair.
yeah. I said yesterday, I think this team, I think if you're a fan, and I am a fan, but I think if you're a fan, I think you can think that the Super Bowl is, I don't want to say reasonable, but the Super Bowl is there. So, yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point, the excitement that I have for this team in this season is why I'm so nervous about Sunday. Because it's you spend all offseason, you got a quarterback you can win with. You got the best running back in the league. You got two wide receivers. You think you've improved the defense. Even Vrabel. And nobody, I think, in this town has been more critical of things Vrabel has done that are dumb than me. But, Vrabel's a good coach. So you've got a good coach. Your defense can't be worse. Your offense should actually be better. And then it's now they got to go out and do it. And then you start thinking about Kyler, and you think about JJ, and Chandler
Jones, DeAndre Hopkins.
Apparently, there's this guy I've never heard of, like Derek something. I was looking up the Cardinals roster earlier today, and Taylor Lewan said that he's as good as all the other guys. And he called him, he's like, oh, yeah, no, number 45, whoever he is, he's on the tape. Dennis Gardek, who is a fourth-year player out of Sioux Falls.
Okay.
Lewan was like, oh, yeah, 45. He's got the hair like Pat Tillman. He's awesome. And all these other guys, everyone else, get a little nervous. Dennis Gardek.
Remember that name.
We
don't know how to pronounce it, but remember it.
615-737-1025. We're off and running on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What is your level going into Sunday? Your level of optimism compared to your level of nervousness for this game on Sunday? 615-737-1025. Plus, Josh Reynolds went on Robbie and Rex Road yesterday and said something that is not going to calm the hype surrounding the Titans offense. What'd he say? And is he right? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. We are live today at First Horizon Park. Again, the Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds at 7:05. Tickets still available. Get those today. ESPN 1025 The Game.
Derek, how good does it feel to have most of your offense back on the field this week as you guys gear up for this game one?
Always good to have everybody healthy. Just excited to, get to Sunday and, clean everything up this week so we can be ready.
There you go, Derrick Henry, a man of very few words when it comes to talking to the press.
Well, there's no time to talk when you're busy breaking records and picking up offensive MVP awards.
I know, but he's not, posting stuff to Instagram anymore, really. So I feel like he has more time to talk to the press.
Do you check in on him on his Instagram?
Dude, I told you yesterday off the air. Was it off the air or on the air?
I don't know. I don't remember.
That I follow Tannehill's wife because I just love.
Yes.
I love keeping up with the Tannehills. Like I love look, the Tannehills went hiking in the park this weekend.
I hope they had fun.
Just great. Like, the Tannehills are off on the boat in the Bahamas. This is so good for the
I hope they're
Tannehills.
being safe.
Does that make me like a stalker?
It makes you a fanboy more than anything.
Does it?
But that's okay.
Well, see, here's why I would say I'm not a fanboy, especially as the Tannehills are concerned. 2 years ago, when he had just gotten the starting job, I was walking into a restaurant. He and his wife and kids were at the restaurant. And, it's Friday night. And we looked at each other. And we kind of had that, look where it's like, you know how, you know somebody, but you don't know who that is? Like, I know you. I know you from somewhere. I don't know where it. That's how he looked at me.
But you know him.
I knew exactly who he was. So we, stared at each other for a second. And I was like, and we kind of, did a little head nod. And I was like, hey, good luck Sunday. He's like, thanks, man. It means a lot. And I walked in. And so, because I didn't fanboy, oh my God, it's Ryan Tannehill. But I just, it's not like the fan element of that. It's almost like the Hollywood, the stuff,
like keeping up with
Entertainment
celebrities.
Tonight.
Yeah.
So, but no, so I follow Derrick Henry on Instagram, and he doesn't post anything interesting anymore. During the off season, it's like, here's Derrick Henry squatting a giant mule. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
I want to see that.
He's got a mule on his back, and he's going to go run a sprint.
And he's wearing 3 chains that are each weigh 100 pounds a piece.
Yeah, and now it is.
Yeah.
So,
you going to hit him with an unfollow?
No. So Josh Reynolds, and I found this to be very interesting, was on Robbie and Rex Road yesterday. And I really wondered what he was going to say, and you heard right there, everyone's asked everybody these same questions. They asked Julio today, they asked Lawan, they asked AJ, they asked Tannehill the other day, they've asked Vrabel 17 times, they asked Derek in the clip we played coming back from break. Josh Reynolds was asked about having all the pieces to the offense together, which they've had for the first time all year for this past week of practice against Arizona. Here's what Josh Reynolds said yesterday on Robbie and Rex Road.
For people who are going to be in the stadium Sunday, I mean, what do you think this offense could look like with all of these weapons, operating together?
Man, all I can say is it's going to look dangerous, man. We got a lot of weapons out there, like you were saying, and my guy Tannehill to spread it around, and then you got that beast of a human back in the backfield. So, I mean, it's looking dangerous.
Looking dangerous. And he said it twice. And we should keep in mind that these are the say-nothing Titans. Tannehill says nothing. Derek says nothing. Vrabel says nothing. Julio or A.J. Brown was asked a question today about his knee and was like, how do I say this without getting in trouble? You guys need to ask Mike Vrabel about that. That was...
I plead the fifth.
So Josh Reynolds says, looking dangerous, and said twice, looking dangerous. What's your expectation for the offense Sunday?
Are we talking numerical expectations? I mean, I think in general, just overall, I need to see that offense look like it is in charge and dominate. I need it to look like they're, the Titans offense goes out there, they understand the game plan, they execute whatever play was called. I need them to look confident, and I need them to look sure of themselves.
So I guess, no, I don't want you to tell me numerically what your expectation is, but you kind of have to, because when you say that, I mean, it sounds like, I want them to go out and dominate, and I want them to, and it's like you're saying, never punt. My expectation Sunday is not that they're not going to punt.
Right.
I mean, they're going to punt on Sunday. And by the way, punting is not bad for everybody out there. But I almost feel like here's what I want to see from the offense. Whatever Arizona decides to do, you have to make them pay for it. Remember yesterday, TD was on the show, and TD was talking about how if he was Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator at Arizona, that he would play a zone coverage and not stack the box. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to turn around and hand the ball to Derrick Henry
every single time.
I mean, there's no – Belichick tried that. in the playoff game 2 years ago. And it was during COVID, the COVID shutdowns. I say during COVID. COVID's going to be for forever. But it was during the COVID shutdowns last year when Floyd and I were watching that game. And we were at my old house, upstairs, and we were watching the game. And he said, and, obviously Floyd thinks Bill is the greatest coach of all time. And those guys are very, very close. And it's not a knock on Bill, what I'm about to say. But he said, what got Bill was that the game 2 years ago, Mariota and Corey Davis went nuts on Stephon Gilmore. That'll never happen again. But they did, and they beat the Patriots. And Bill was so afraid of that he kind of backed it out, even though everybody and their grandma knew that the Titans had Derrick Henry and they were going to hand it off to Derrick Henry. And Floyd thought that was a mistake that Bill made in the game plan, was to not take Derrick out of the game. And so when TD says, and I'm not saying TD's wrong, Vance Joseph might do this, but when TD says he would, back out of the box and play zone coverage so those sorry corners Arizona has don't get beat by Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, I look at that like, okay, go run for 180 yards. Seriously, go run for 180 yards. If Arizona does what I would do, which is I'm loading the box and I'm coming. And the reason I'm coming is I don't think my corners can cover A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. So J.J. and Chandler and Marcus Golden and Zach Allen, you got to get to them. You got to get to Tannehill before my sorry corners get beat by A.J. and Julio. Now, you may get burned on that. They may throw one over the top for a touchdown, but that's what I would do. Because I've seen J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones wreak havoc on the Titans before, especially J.J. Watt. And the Titans have a third-string right tackle in David Quessenberry. So I would do that. But if you're going to do that, to your point about being dominant, all right, then you got to go hit some bombs. A.J.'s got to get one where he catches that slant, throws that sorry corner off, and runs into the end zone for a touchdown. Julio's got to have one where he gooses somebody, and it's a 75-yard gain. And now Vance Joseph is sitting there saying, oh, I better not bring out the house with these guys, because if they do, it's going to burn me. And so I think that's what my expectation is. Again, I'm not going numerically. I'm not saying they need to score 40 points.
Right.
I'm not saying that they need to, have 38 minutes time of possession. I'm not saying they need to throw for 400 yards. I'm not saying they need to run for 200 yards.
They could.
I just think that they have got to this thing that we've talked about since the day they acquired Julio, the pick your poison. You have to make Arizona live that reality on Sunday. That is that if it's 3rd and 6 and they're doubling Julio and they are keeping, a safety over top of AJ and Anthony Ferkser's got man coverage. He's got to beat him, and Tannehill's got to put the ball in his hands, and it's got to be for a gain of 7. Like that to me is what I'm looking for on Sunday, is that you make Arizona pay for whatever they decide to do. That they don't have an answer. Because I'll say this, and we talked about the anxiety of week 1. Vrabel is anxious about a lot of things. Anxious about DeAndre Hopkins, anxious about Kyler breaking contain, anxious about JJ, Chandler Jones wrecking the game. A.J. Brown today was asked about what he worries about Arizona's defense the most. He just goes, Buda Baker. Like, without a doubt, Buda Baker. So, worried about Buda Baker taking away the football, turnovers. Vance Joseph is sitting there thinking, this is my plan that I feel comfortable with on Sunday. This is what we're going to do. And I don't know what it is, and you don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is. But Vance Joseph also knows if they are able to do X, Y, Z, whatever that is, we're screwed. And you got to do that. Whatever that is, you got to do that, and you got to make them pay. And that's my expectation. When you talk about looking dangerous, that's dangerous. Like when Peyton Manning was quarterback of Indianapolis, and they had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Dallas Clark and Edgerrin James. Peyton could come up to the line of scrimmage. And let's say you were loading the box and you were dedicated to stop Edgerrin James, who was a rushing champion. And Peyton's getting up there and all of a sudden goes all the hand signals in the Omahas. And all of a sudden there's some corner that he's going after and he takes that guy to the bank. That's what they've got to do. That's my expectation for the offense. When you talk about being dominant, that's it right there.
And I guess to that point, whenever the Titans acquired Julio Jones, what was everyone talking about was how can defenses stop this offense. So I think, to your point, watching I expect the Titans to use the tools at their disposal, the several tools that they have on offense in 2 wide receivers, one of the best running backs in the league, utilizing Anthony Firkser, using their tools on offense so that you have to force Arizona to try different things, to pull out all the stops.
Do you think they're looking dangerous, though? Like, do you think Josh Reynolds is just like, hey, Josh, here's the phone. You're going on with Joe Rexrode and Robbie Stanley, and it's like, oh, yeah, guys. Oh, yeah, looking dangerous. Or do you think that he's sitting out there at practice saying, like, oh, holy crap, we're going to smoke some people this year?
I think I lean the latter but I think there's also an element there of like, of course he's going to say that. Of course he thinks the offense looks dangerous. He plays on this offense. Of course he thinks that.
Do I look fat in this dress? No.
Cool, let's go. Let's hit the road. So I think there's a little bit of an element to that as well. But you think the New York Jets are going out to practice and saying, man, this offense is going to be dangerous.
No.
So I do think there's a little bit of truth to that.
Like, I think the Baltimore Ravens go out there thinking this offense is going to be dangerous because somebody
Let's
might
not
get hurt.
tear any ACLs today. All right, ready, break.
Let's not be dangerous. Ready? 615-737-1025. What is your expectation for the offense? We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And again, that question is, what is the expectation for the offense and your nervousness for the game? We'll get to your reaction on that. Plus, also, there is an element about AJ that I'm worried about, although less worried after talking to AJ today. I'm worried about that nobody else is. So while I'm not a groupthink guy, I may jump over to, didn't say I would, I may jump over to groupthink for a second. You think I'm going to jump over to groupthink?
No.
Well, I may.
Okay, all right, we've been warned.
Well, I mean, if I say may like 7 times, doesn't that give the indication that I probably am going to?
I don't think you are. Because I think that you might agree with the group thing, but you aren't going to let yourself think that you believe that.
Ian, you think I'm going to give into the group thing?
Sounds like you may.
I said I may, but do you think I will?
I would lean towards that way, yeah.
By the way, I need to get a copy of Ian's revised contract because I always believed there was a clause in there that he had to agree with Floyd at all times on everything. And I don't feel like you and I argue as much as Floyd and I did, but I do feel like Ian has been very measured in a lot of his responses. And I wonder if that is like part of the adaptation of his new contract and whatever the adjustment in that clause was.
Maybe Ian's just a pacifist.
I don't know about all that.
No.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. FanDuel Sportsbook app, my official sportsbook app. Guys, you got to start betting week 1 because, there is money to be made. NFL week 1 is here. The fridge is stocked. The recliner is ready. And now all you got to do is log into the FanDuel Sportsbook app and claim your risk-free bet. That's right. FanDuel Sportsbook is giving all customers a risk-free bet just in time for week 1 of the NFL season. You got money line bets, over-under, prop bets, same-game parlays. It's America's #1 sports book. It's easy to use, and they have fast payouts. Buffalo over Pittsburgh. Throwing that one out there now. Use FanDuel Sportsbook on any Week 1 game. Bet the money line or take the over. Throw some on a prop bet or a same-game parlay bet. New to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up with the promo code JGM to get in on all the action. That's promo code JGM. 21 and older in present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company, we are live at First Horizon Park. Big game for the Sounds tonight, taking on the Memphis Redbirds. I'll need to check the Memphis Redbirds roster here in a second, see if I went to college with anybody on the team. Just an FYI. Speaking of sports in town, ESPN 94.9 is the official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Listening tomorrow night as Nashville SC takes on Montreal. Pre-game starts at 6:45, and the match begins at 7. Saw John Ingram last night, owner of the Nashville SC hockey team, or hockey team, soccer club. Nashville SC Soccer Club, Nashville SC is Nashville Soccer Club.
Soccer Club, yeah.
But yeah, saw John Ingram out at the Blake Shelton concert last night.
It was
so it was good to
fun.
catch up with him. And
Good.
I'll tell you what, they're excited. I mean, they're excited that the team is good, like is as good as they are right now. And I think they're even more excited for what it's going to look like next year in the new stadium. I mean, I think there is a vibe of like, hey, we're paying, we got a team that's pretty good, but next year, and you know, this year's fun, but next year with that stadium, I think it's going to be popping.
Well, and it kind of gives the team its own identity. When you have your
sure.
own place, your own home, people can go. It's your colors. I think that'll be the next big step for NSC to really make a big splash here in Nashville.
Fireball Hot Take Friday. We'll go to your phones in just a second. I do want to say this. I am not somebody who supersedes to the masses. I am not somebody who gives into groupthink. I am not somebody who, well, everybody else is doing it. No. I think for myself 99% of the time. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. But how worried are we about A.J. Brown's knees quickly? Just give me a percentage that you're worried. A.J. didn't practice 2 days ago, full practice yesterday, full practice today, met with the media today, didn't have any sort of a knee brace on or anything from what I could see. And when asked about his knees, said, you need to talk to Mike Vrabel about that.
For the 2020 season, I think I'm like 60% worried.
Okay, but what about for Sunday versus Arizona?
Yeah, I think I said 2020. I meant 2021. I think like 60% worried. So like not a ton, but it's like a failing grade.
60 is more than half.
Yeah. It's not a ton, but it's formidable.
Ian, how worried are you?
Not worried this week, no.
So I see the fans are not worried. TD, not worried on the show yesterday. Ian, not worried.
Not for this week.
AJ, the way he was talking today, not worried. I'm going to have to say I'm not worried for Sunday. I'm not worried about AJ Brown's knees.
Well,
Now-
what else is A.J. Brown going to say, though? You
I
think he's
know.
going to tell you that his knees are a worry, a concern for him?
You know, Jared, my knees are really screwed up.
If you've got me on your fantasy team, I would try to pick up someone on your bench this week. I mean, to say that.
AJ tweeted something out the other day where it was like, I just can't wait till I can provide so that my mama doesn't have to work anymore or something along those lines.
That's sweet.
Well, go out and have another 1,000-yard season, and your mom will never have to work if you don't want her to.
Right.
Because you'll get that new contract next year. It'll be $20 million a season plus. And once you're making that $20 million plus, Mom, take today off and tomorrow and the next day and however many more days you want.
And go to the Bahamas while you're at it.
But if
all
you-
inclusive.
If you don't get on the field because your knees are hurting you, Mom, you got to go back to work. And I do think, I think there's a couple things here with AJ.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we've learned over the last couple of years, AJ is going to play. Like, push
Yeah.
comes to shove, AJ will play. In a big game, he's in. And we've seen him go down, and you're holding your breath like, oh, my God. I mean, I saw one when they played Cleveland. It was the one game that I went to last year. And he got hurt, and I thought it was like a hyperextended knee or, something bad. And I'm like, oh, no. And then 5 minutes later, AJ's back in the game. I'm like, great. And I asked Vrabel about it at the end of the year because he kept getting hurt. Vrabel's like, I don't know. I guess we just got to go out there and check on him. Maybe he just needs us to pick him up. And
He
then
just
he'll
needed a
feel little
second.
better.
Yeah.
But then he had surgery on both knees, and the knee still seems to be a factor. So, long term, yeah, I think this is a discussion. I think if AJ goes out and has another 1,000-yard season, but he's consistently on the injury report and he's having to miss practices and whatnot, I think this becomes a topic of discussion if you're going to try to sign him to a $100 million contract. But as far as playing for week one, I will side with the groupthink today, and I'll say not worried, and I think AJ is good to go and good to be effective on Sunday against Arizona.
And that's exactly why when you asked me how worried I was about A.J. Brown's knees, I specified the 2021 season. Because I think, right now, it's like, yeah, you're going to be worried about it. yes, he's going to miss a few practices maybe, but it's not going to make me so concerned that I think that this could potentially be a season-ending thing for the Titans. I worry about it in 2022.
Let's go to your phones. It is a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caroline, what do we have?
Slick texts in and says, I think the team this season, the team theme this season should be win a ring for Floyd.
So I'm not going to say who told me this, but somebody over there, when Floyd died, I was talking to, I'll just say this. The last 3 weeks, I've probably never had like a closer relationship with the Titans organization as a whole than I do now. And I don't expect it to last for forever. I mean, as everybody knows, I love the Titans, but if I see something I don't think's right, I'm going to let everybody know that it's not right. But I've talked to a lot of people over there that share that sentiment, that they want the Titans to win a Super Bowl and they want to win it for him. And I think it would be really cool that if they won one, if they got, Sally a ring. I'm not saying they have to. Like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm telling the Titans what they've got to do here, even though I tell the Titans what they have to do all the time whenever I feel like saying it. But, like, I don't want to put pressure on the Titans to be like, how dare they not honor Floyd's memory by not giving Sally a ring? But I think it would be a very classy gesture if they talked about, if they won the Super Bowl and they, whatever. And maybe some of that's selfish because Floyd was so important to me and so important to all of us. But there are people over there that want to win it this year for him. Then that has been discussed with me, and I hope they do. It's tough because, like, the players don't know Floyd. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you went and asked the 53 guy, they probably, not one of them probably, like, knows anything about Floyd other than, oh, yeah, he used to be the general manager, like, at some point, and I think he was on the radio. But the people over there, I think they have a great appreciation for Floyd. And I've been really, really warmed by how many people over there were as hurt by his passing as I think I was. What's next?
And to that point, too, whether or not someone on the 53-man roster knew Floyd, knows how Floyd knows him personally, Floyd is still part of the fabric of that organization.
The drummer for Blake Shelton last night. So I went to Blake Shelton. You went to Blake Shelton. We were just talking about.
Yeah.
Blake Shelton's drummer is a good buddy of ours. And he told me, he said yesterday, great guy, Tracy Broussard, he said, you see a lot of athletes and people that you looked up to or you watched on TV or athletes or musicians. You see a lot of people pass away. And he goes, and that one, when I saw it, he goes, that one got me. Mm. He goes, when the GM passed, that one got me. And I thought about you. And I really appreciated that. And I know there's a lot of people around town that, if they win it, they win it for the GM, I think that would be very, very, very happy. And by the way, speaking of winning for the GM, I mean, you've got 6-pack picks today you got to win for the GM, and then, your season picks. We all know that he'd be rooting for you because we know he's not rooting for me.
Well, how about those Dallas Cowboys last night? Looking pretty prepared to win the division, which I did indeed pick them to do.
When I first met Caroline, I said, you and Floyd have a lot in common. And she said, really? And I said, no. I go, no.
You said, I don't think you two could be any more different.
The guy is 73 years old, and he's, 40 years in the NFL, and you're, at the time, 23 years old, working at ESPN and doing digital stuff. And Floyd was never like I remember the time that I found out that he could check his email. I was like, oh, way to go. So, but that response that you just had, that's exactly what he would have said. What else we got in the text line?
Another texter texts in and says, I am not worried about A.J. Brown's knee until it becomes a problem.
So I think in life, and this is just me, and you can correct me, don't you need to be worried about things before they happen?
It feels very easy to say, well, I'm not going to worry about it until it's a problem. Like, well, maybe you can worry about it so when it does become a problem, you have some sort of way of dealing with it. But I think in this case, like, if A.J. Brown's knees do become an issue in the season, like, is there anything that the Titans can do now?
No.
Right.
No.
So
But-
I think that's a kind of a fair thing to say.
Right. And that's where I think it becomes a bigger question of, are we going to commit $20 million a year to this guy? Now you got to talk about it.
Right.
And I go back to, I'll worry about it when it's an issue. Like, okay, flood insurance, I'll worry about it when it's an issue.
Yeah, like my tire has low pressure, but I'm not going to go fill it up
I'll
because I'll
worry
worry
about
about
it
it when
when
it's
it's an
flat. Like
issue,
there's
yeah.
something that you can do now to avoid that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Fireball Hot Take Friday here on Stillman and Company. Coming up next, how about them Cowboys? I think a lot of people have a lot of apologizing to do. I think I've got some apologizing to do. We'll get our thoughts on last night's game. 615-737-1025. Speaking of floods, 1025 The Game and Cromwell Media Nashville are helping our friends at WQMV in Waverly rebuild from the catastrophic floods last month. Head over to thegamenashville.com to learn how you can help as well, as the radio station suffered major damage to their structure, equipment, and more. We want everyone affected by the floods to know that they aren't alone and to keep being Humphreys County strong.
kicker in Tampa Bay.
The margin of error is thin in the NFL, and one or two plays, that's the way the game goes. And fortunately, we found a way to win, and I'm really happy Ryan and the field goal team made that really clutch kick there at the end. That was great to see. Special teams was just awesome tonight. But as a team, we all know we got to get back to work and try to improve.
That's the greatest player who ever lived, Tom Brady. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Tampa Bay survives by the skin of their teeth last night. I mean, look, we crapped on Dallas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I said that I would take Tampa Bay up to like minus 18.5.
So we crapped all over Dallas, and they could have won the game. Now, when I saw Dallas kick the field goal, when I saw Zerline come out with like 1:40 to go, I thought that's too much time for Brady.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is way too much time for Brady, and Brady leads them right down. Godwin makes a great catch, and then Suckup comes out and drills a field goal. We'll get to the Suckup factor in just a second. The Buccaneers, as much as we, are awarding the Cowboys for the fact that they didn't get embarrassed on TV, which we all thought was going to happen last night, apparently the Buccaneers are the first team in NFL history to lose the turnover margin by 3, incur 100 penalty yards, and allow 450 yards of offense and still win the game.
That's great. The first in history?
First in the history of the sport.
That is crazy. And I do have to say, Tom Brady's not the quarterback of that team. Dallas wins.
Oh, yeah.
Every time.
Jameis Winston's the quarterback of that team? No
Oh,
shot.
yeah.
So, do we look at it like, Tampa Bay may not be as great as everybody cracks them up to be, or do we look at it like, hey, you know what? Dallas went out there and competed last night, and you've got to give Dallas their props. I'm going to vote like you're going to see some sloppy play in week 1.
Yeah.
This is a game that if it happened in week 8, Tampa Bay probably wins comfortably. But I thought it was a sloppy game last night. And so that was probably my biggest takeaway. But it's something that when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals and the Titans that we've been talking about, that, be careful because week 1. Last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat Indianapolis in week 1, didn't win a single game the rest of the year. And that, by the way, was the one reason that the Colts didn't win the division, was because they lost week 1. I thought that was kind of like a fluky, kind of game.
Weird things happen.
So do you give Dallas credit?
Absolutely, I give Dallas credit. I mean, Tampa Bay looked sloppy. They made mistakes. They had, 4 turnovers?
Dallas's offensive line last night was so bad. Dak was
Without
running,
Zach Martin, you have to keep in mind.
Dak was running like for his life, and every time he got hit, I was like, and I'm like, oh, let's see. Okay, gets up fine.
Yep.
But every time, and I know, Taylor Lewan got hurt last year or something, and every time that he goes down, we're not going to hold it. For some reason, every time Dak got hurt or got hit last night, oh no, Dak!
Well, I think I went into the game last night thinking of Dak as like a little porcelain doll because he's coming off of the injury, his first game back after breaking his ankle. So I kind of was like, oh, protect him, and especially with Zach Martin being out last night. But to my point, Tampa Bay looked sloppy last night, and they still found a way to win. And I think that's just what a championship team does. You find a way to win. But absolutely, to your point, I do give Dallas credit.
Ian, do you get depressed at all about Ryan Suckup making the game-winning kick?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
I'm a little torn because I was in favor of the Titans cutting Suckup because of the salary cap money and the injuries and everything else. And he wasn't as reliable as he was at the start of his Titans tenure.
His form does not look as good and strong as it used to.
No, when the Titans were bad and he was the kicker, and like the 2 malarkey years, I mean, he got up there and it was like, all right, like 45, bang, automatic,
50
just
in the super cold.
Dude, just letting it fly. And he looked like a strong kicker. Every time he went out there, he drilled a missile right down the middle. Now he gets out there and he looks like Thomas the Train Engine trying to kick. Like, I think I can.
Fingers crossed.
And then the ball just sails magically through the uprights. And the one thing I do think about Suckup is, and this you're going to see this out of me more so, in the future here, is almost trying to anticipate how Floyd would have felt. And I almost felt like, knowing how he felt about Suckup, that he would have rode out Suckup as long as possible to avoid the kicking carousel that the Titans have spent the last 2 seasons on. and because of how much he, a longtime special teams coach, values a veteran kicker who has spent a lot of his career making those kicks. So then it's like hard for me to say, well, it was the right move, even though I thought it was the right move. 71025. I'm not a Kyler Murray guy. Everybody I feel like I've talked to has kind of a different opinion about Kyler Murray. Like everybody, what's your opinion of Patrick Mahomes? He's great. What's your opinion of Blake Bortles? He sucks. Everybody has the same opinion almost every quarterback in the league. Kyler Murray's different. And yet there's something about Kyler that's starting to bother me. We'll get to that coming up next as the Titans get set to take on Arizona in Week 1. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Fireball Cinema Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly, but nothing says the celebration of the start of the football season like ice-cold Fireball Cinema Whiskey. Tailgating is back this year, and if you're going to have a tailgate, you're going to have your buddies. Yeah, I know you're going to bring your beer. You're going to be sure to grab some Fireball. There is no better way to have a great tailgating party than with ice-cold Fireball Cinema Whiskey. It goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. It is just fantastic. Be sure to ignite the night. Be sure to do it responsibly. And again, be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinema Whiskey, live from First Horizon Park. Stillman and Company. We're delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving Fireball Hot Take Friday live from First Horizon Park. Of course, you can catch us on YouTube and Periscope on Twitter as well. I need to start doing this like Colin Cowherd. Like when Colin Cowherd starts his show, he's like, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. He'd be like, you can catch us on 102.5. You can catch us on the Game Nashville app.
Yep.
You can catch us at theGameNashville.com. You can catch us on YouTube.
Yep.
You can catch us on Twitter.
Yep.
Just search Stillman and Company and Twitch. Just search Stillman and Company and you can find us. That's all I got to say about them. We have a little bit of breaking news. The key, a little bit. Not anything to get wild and crazy about.
But it is news.
The injury report is out, and the Titans have added kicker Sam Ficken. Ian actually brought this up. I just saw the injury report come out and just looked at it and thought, okay, whatever, week 1 injury report. By the way, the guy that Taylor Lewan was all worried about today that he didn't know his name, Dennis Gardek, out today for Arizona, so Taylor doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Chris Jackson, questionable with a hamstring. David Long Jr. is out, as Mike Vrabel told people today. Tommy Hudson, a tight end, didn't practice. Who cares? Josh Reynolds, foot, limited participation, questionable. Sam Ficken, not heard on Wednesday, not heard on Thursday. Friday limited is questionable for the game on Sunday. So that's Sam Ficken. And you think, okay. The Titans have signed Michael Bagley, a.k.a. the Money Badger, to the practice squad. And, Ian, you brought this up during the break. Should we read into this? And I think that's a fair question to ask. So the breaking news is they just signed Michael Badgley. Do you have the release in front of you about Badgley and what his stats are? I know he's kicked for the Chargers for like 4 or 5 years in a row. What do we have on Badgley?
5'10", 183. I don't know exactly what that means.
That's his height and weight.
Oh, 5'10", 183 pounds. I was about to say, that doesn't seem like that's very many games.
That's okay.
Has 3 years of NFL experience, entering the NFL as an undrafted college free agent with the Colts. For his career from 2018 to 2020, he has connected 52 of 65 field goal attempts, 82 of 86 on extra points, all while kicking for the Chargers. His career-long 59 yards, perfect, 30 of 30 on attempts inside of 40.
So I think this could be a couple of things. I think Ian could be reading this correctly, and they could have an issue at the kicking position, and Ficken's hurt, so bring in Money Badger, elevate him from the practice squad on Sunday, have him kick, and now you got both guys. The second thing could be, well, you said he's got 3 years of NFL experience. So he wouldn't be...
Since the 18 season.
So he wouldn't be one of those, veterans that you would have to pay for the whole season if he was signed under the active roster. So you don't have to worry about that. The third thing could be they added the Money Badger to make sure Sam Ficken knows, hey, Sammy, go make your kicks. Like, go make your kicks on Sunday.
Don't you think they've done enough of that in the offseason?
See, I would actually agree with you. Well, no, because Ficken only came here like a month ago. But remember, they released Hobbiel and they brought in Ficken.
Yeah.
But to your point, they did pressure Ficken, and they had Tucker McCann out there, and they put him in the preseason games. And I do wonder if the Titans would be better off not having the Money Badger on the practice squad so that Ficken can feel comfortable and worry about making his kick, as opposed to worrying about somebody over his shoulder. Because a kicker in the NFL, there's always somebody over your shoulder. You may not know who it is, but there's always somebody there.
And I do think that is a fear that looms around every player is, I'm replaceable.
Oh, yes.
I go down, I don't perform, there will be somebody else that is in my place by tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if I'm on board with that. I mean, do you think that it could be really just as simple as Sam Ficken may not be 100% for Sunday?
I think Ian may be right on this. They may have signed him just in case, and they'll be fine, but we'll see. Kyler Murray comes in here on Sunday, and I don't think much of Kyler Murray. Like, when I think of every time that we saw one of these top quarterback lists and they had Kyler Murray ranked ahead of Tannehill, I got mad every single time I saw that. I would not have drafted Kyler Murray number 1 overall.
No.
I do not think Kyler Murray's a franchise quarterback. I do not think that Kyler Murray will work out long-term in Arizona. I do not think that Kyler Murray throws the ball well enough. He's got a strong arm. That's fine. But I don't think that his passing is good enough for you to win in the NFL. But you talk to different people, and they're like, oh, Kyler is electric. And I'm like, is Kyler that electric? The one thing I will say, though, is this. I didn't really like Josh Allen. I thought he was just kind of a thrower with a cannon, but I didn't think he was very good, and he didn't do much his first 2 years in Buffalo.
But
And
do you think that the difference of you not thinking Josh Allen is good and you thinking Josh Allen is good is Stephon Diggs?
I don't know.
It very well could be.
I don't I guess I would be honest with that. I don't watch enough of the Bills to be able to dissect what made Josh Allen better. But they won in spite of Josh Allen 2 years ago. They won because of Josh Allen last year. I never believed Lamar Jackson was going to be a good NFL quarterback. Never. And when the Chargers beat them in that playoff game by running 7 defensive backs on the field, I was like, see, there you go. Lamar can't do it in the NFL. League MVP the next year. The breakout quarterback. There is a breakout quarterback every single year. And it's so random who it is. A couple of years ago, Carson Wentz in Philadelphia was the breakout quarterback. At one point, Derek Carr was the breakout quarterback in Oakland the year that he almost won the MVP and broke his leg. You never know who that breakout quarterback is going to be. And I do wonder, this is year 3, Kyler and Cliff together. They're going to have to make a decision on Kyler at the end of the year as far as his 5th-year option is concerned. I'm guessing they're going to pick it up. But I'm not a huge Kyler guy, and yet in the back of my mind, I do wonder, could Kyler Murray be the breakout quarterback of 2021?
Very well could be, and that possibility is always there. But I go back to the fact that I think the only thing really standing in Kyler's way of doing that is his arm. Because he has found so much success running, out of the pocket, on the ground. And when it comes to Kyler Murray's throwing game, I don't know exactly where he ranks among starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I can't believe it's incredibly high. So he saw improvement in year 2. He got sacked time and time again in year 1, find a way to avoid getting sacked in year 2. He can continue to grow on that year after year. I'm not convinced that it is going to be Kyler Murray because I don't think that he has a strong enough arm to be able to be that, oh my gosh, how did we miss this guy, NFL MVP kind of quarterback. I don't think
A.J. Green and Rondale Moore allow Kyler Murray to be that guy this year? Because he's got the guy. You talked about Stephon Diggs elevating Josh Allen's game.
He's got D-Hop.
If he's got Hopkins, A.J. Green is a serviceable veteran. Think Anquan Bolden at the end of his career. And Rondale Moore is that dude that we talked about maybe even in the first round for the Titans. Rondale Moore is that dude, and offensively they're lighting it up. Could that be the difference for Kyler Murray and him being a breakout quarter? I just never.
It very well could be the case.
I have never liked Kyler's game. I think he's too short.
That's another thing. He's 5'10"?
Is he?
Yeah. According to, I always take away 2 to 3 inches. So let's say he's 5'8" on a good day.
Okay, so I've always wondered about, I know this is going to sound people are going to get mad at me when I say this. Kyler's hair, right?
Uh-huh.
So, if he grows it, up.
Like the kid from Hey Arnold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he grows it up, like Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
If you do that, would that make you 5'10" when in reality you're 5'8"? Because I know, a 5'10" quarterback.
Russell's always fib a little bit.
But he was 5'10" at the combine.
Okay.
Russell Wilson looks bigger than him.
How tall is Russell Wilson? 5'10"? 5'11"?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure they probably just measure from the top of their head. They've done this before.
So if you go full on,
if it's full flat top all the way up here, you're not.
If it's Marge Simpson, they're not going to go ahead and take your
right.
So if I look at the game log from Kyler, this is the other thing that and I think some of this is Kingsbury, and I think Kingsbury's a bad coach, but Kyler's game log last year, there was 380 yards against the Jets, 360 yards against Seattle, 406 yards against Philadelphia. But then there's also a lot of 133 yards, 188 yards, 173 yards, 170 yards. There's a lot of that, too.
You mentioned earlier how the Athletic, the Arizona Cardinals had the most parity in where athletic writers put them, and I think that is a small representation of why. Because that's exactly what Kyler Murray is. He can be on one end of the spectrum one day, and the next week he is on the other end.
Corey Curtis, News 2, will join us next. His thoughts on week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. What's the nervousness level? What's the excited level? What does he expect them to do? We'll get to that next with Corey Stillman and company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks out there that Silly Underdog Picks is back. Get your friends or family and play as a group. Sign up and play today. Pick 3 football underdog teams you think will win each week for a chance to win weekly prizes, like a pair of tickets to a sporting event or a concert in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com or the ESPN The Game Nashville mobile app and sign up to play today. Silly Underdog Picks is brought to you by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. Stillman and Company, we are live today, First Horizon Park, where the Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds tonight, 7:05. They're here this weekend, and you should be sure to check them out. Do you want to win a pair of tickets to a Stanford-Vanderbilt football game at Vanderbilt Stadium on Saturday, September 18th? Head over to YouTube and subscribe to the 1025 The Game YouTube page, and you'll enter to win your way into the game. One winner will be chosen on September 13th. So, again, we're streaming live every day, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, the TuneIn Radio app, the Game Nashville app, there's all these apps. And I would tell everybody, go watch and watch us. And you can see this just handsome face every single day.
Oh boy, reel it in.
I'm just keeping it real with the people out there. Just, hey, it sells.
Oh, Corey. I heard Corey's on the line.
Speaking of faces for television, Corey Curtis, News 2, joins us on the program. Corey, the Titans host Arizona Week 1. Mike Vrabel talked about this today, about the anxiety of not knowing going into Week 1. I have the same anxiety. I think the Titans are better than the Cardinals. I think the Titans have a good team. I think this is going to be a good season. And yet I am nervous about Sunday's game. How do you feel about the unknowns of a Week 1?
Well, I know it's boring radio, but I largely agree with you that I think the Titans are a better team than the Cardinals. But the unknowns of the amount of time that they've been on the practice field together and been able to play is something that gives me cause for pause and cause for concern as to how it's going to all unfold, And, I know these guys are professional athletes. I know they know how to take care of their bodies and they're in shape, but I've always said that nothing prepares you to play football like playing football. And, how good a shape are they going to be in with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and the game on the line? And, that's all the stuff that we're going to have to see. And, there's a lot of trust that stuff will all work itself out, and we'll find out if it does or it doesn't.
One thing that scares the daylights out of me in this game, Corey, is Mike Vrabel today said that David Quessenberry is going to be the right tackle. And I'm thinking about J.J. Watt or Chandler Jones or Marcus Golden, and I'm thinking about David Quessenberry. And I get nervous that with all those pass rushers Arizona has, it's great to have A.J. and Julio, but if those guys can't get open and Tannehill's in trouble all day, that's going to be a problem. How worried are you of Quessenberry, being the right tackle?
Well, I'm not that worried because he played left tackle when they averaged 30.7 points per game, and Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards. Mm-hmm. So this isn't Will Spitek that they're rolling out there, signing him off the street. This is a guy who's played. This is a guy who's played at a pretty decent level for them at left tackle, which you could argue is right tackle. And I think you're right. Those guys are good players on the other side, right? I mean, they're good players, and you have to address them. And I think if you just leave Quiz on his own out there all game long, then you might be asking for some problems. But, we'll see how they handle it. I'm not overly concerned. The other thing about Quiz that I like is he hasn't missed any time. Mm-hmm. He's practiced all summer. He's practiced all through training camp. He's one of the guys who has been out there.
Corey Curtis is our guest. News 2 brought to you by Invigorate Health in Mount Juliet. Look and feel your best with IV therapy, medical weight loss, testosterone, health and wellness, and body shaping treatments. InvigorateHealthTN.com for more info. I wonder how much of a threat the Arizona Cardinals really are. The Athletic had their, they had their power rankings, and they said that of their writers at the Athletic, the Arizona Cardinals were the team that was the most all over the place. Somebody had them ranked as high as 7th. Somebody had them ranked as low as 25th. How much of a threat are Kyler and the Cardinals?
Well, I think, the Titans are not quite as wildly thought of, but I think there's some disparate, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for. There's some disparity in the way the Titans are viewed. But I think you're right. I think the disparity is even bigger with Arizona. And look, J.J. Watt isn't 25 anymore. He's not the same player that he was. Is he still a good player? Yeah, probably. But is he the guy that, oh, my gosh, we've got to take care of this guy, or he's absolutely going to wreck our day? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm more concerned with Chandler Jones, who had 19 and a half sacks a year or two ago. And the back end is, not very good. They just had one guy retire. They just had two guys retire. One guy after last season, one guy before the season even started. So they've got some issues on the back end. I don't think anybody in their offensive backfield scares you that much. And I think what it comes down to for them is how people feel about Kyler Murray. Some people feel Kyler Murray is the next big thing, and so they're going to, roll with him like they would roll with Aaron Rodgers. And some people aren't totally sold there. And along those lines, there's some people who don't think Cliff Kingsbury is a particularly good head coach. And I think those are the ways that people line up on. I just don't think 1 to 53, they're as good as Tennessee. They're just not. And I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up at the end of the day.
No, and I would agree with you. Week 1 kind of scares me, though. I was thinking, too, I asked TD this question yesterday. What do you think Vance Joseph does? Because if I'm calling it, I am loading the box and I am sending all those guys that I've got, all those pass rushers, to go try to tackle Ryan Tannehill before A.J. Brown or Julio Jones can get past my sorry defensive backs. TD said he wouldn't load the box. He'd drop everybody back. I think if that's the case, Derrick Henry needs to run for 200 yards. What do you think Vance Joseph does? And do you think the Titans really are as good as everybody thinks to be able to pick their poison of how they're going to attack you offensively?
Well, to address that first, my big mantra with the Titans this year is this. I don't ever want to hear them say, we're going to take what the defense gives us. You got Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Brown. You take whatever the heck you want, okay? You dictate the terms to the defense. That's my take on that. You've got the players. You've got Taylor Lewan. You've got Roger Saffold. You should dictate the terms to the defense on how this game is going to be played. That's my opinion. Now, Vance Joseph, you're right. You can pick your poison, because if you drop 7 guys into coverage or whatever it is you want to do, even 8, then 22 is he's gonna kill you. I mean, but that you just got to see which one works best. I would go back to the Baltimore blueprint if I were them. But the problem is they don't have Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphreys, and that's where you get in trouble at the end of the day. Is you say we're going to get after them at the line of scrimmage. When you have 2 shutdowns like that opens up a lot of avenues for you. They don't have that. And that, if that's what they try to do, 2-11 could have really big days.
Well, and let's also say, too, going back to that Baltimore theory, Julio Jones wasn't on that football field against the Baltimore Ravens. And see, here's where I disagree with you, though. You say that you don't want take what the defense gives them.
No.
I think that's the key to the season, where I look at it and I'm like, fine, you want to go drop everybody back? Give it to 22. You want to load the box? I'm throwing it over your head I'm going to throw a slant to A.J. Brown, who's got man-for-man coverage with a corner. He's going to throw the corner off and run 85 yards into the end zone. That's how I would play it. Like, whatever the defense gives you, take the other thing. And I think that is what this – because Tannehill's not a guy who's going to go out there and just rifle the deep ball 30 times.
No, I mean, look, he's a good deep ball thrower, but even though I think they're going to throw the ball more – I still don't think you want to throw it 35 to 40 times a game. I think that 28 to 34 would still be a really good number for this team. But, let's face it, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, those guys have got to get targets each game. A matter of how many, I don't know. But, you've got to work the ball to those guys. You've got to figure out ways to do it. My point is this only. You're talented enough where you don't have to rely on the defense to give you something. You can take it if you want it.
Corey Curtis, News 2, our guest presented by Invigorate Health. What do you think of the defense? What's your worry level there, or your excitement level to see this new group? Because it is really, for the most part, a new defense.
Well, I mean, I think the unproven stuff is a worry. I don't think Bud Dupree is an unproven player, but he's unproven with the Titans and where he has and where he fits in. Now, listen, he's a guy I really like for this defense, so I think he's going to fit in really well. I am more excited about the defense because of, they touched on it, the energy, the vibe, and every time I hear from Shane Bowen, this sounds like a completely different person. I don't expect them to be a top 10 defense, but I expect them to be competent, and that's all that they need to be. So, do I have some concerns? Yeah, I don't know how good Christian Fulton is. I don't know how far Caleb Farley's going to come along, but I feel like there's upside there, and I'm excited to see the growth. I don't expect it to be perfect week 1, but I'm excited to see where it can go.
Corey Curtis, News 2, our guest presented by Invigorate Health. Corey, your hot take this week on a Fireball Hot Take Friday.
I've been thinking about this one all week.
Really?
And I thought, what's the one hot take I can make that is just going to make Jared's dome blow off, tweet me into the universe, and just go off for the next 2 segments? And I came up with this prediction.
Okay, hold on one second. Caroline, Clear the next 2 segments, please.
Got it. Cleared.
And if this is a flop, then I'm going to rip Corey's rear end. Go ahead, Corey.
Corey Davis will have more yards this year than Julio Jones.
Okay, so there's a couple of things here at play. Corey Davis doesn't play on a team with Derrick Henry. Corey Davis doesn't play on a team right now with A.J. Brown. And Corey Davis' team is going to stink, so they're going to be throwing on every play. There is nobody who puts up meaningless yards better than Corey Davis.
Wow.
So I don't, he and Blake Bortles are in the meaningless yards Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So I'm not going to say that that's not crazy. So
you're not going to say it's impossible. You'll just say it will absolutely not contribute to the Jets being good at all.
I will promise you this. If the Jets play a meaningful game this season, and I have no expectation of that happening, but if the Jets play a meaningful game, I would expect 2 catches for 13 yards from Corey Davis.
Wow. Well,
Hey.
I get it, but he did deliver for the Titans last year. I know there were some bagels in there. I totally get that. But go back. There's 4 or 5 games in there where he's a huge reason they won those football games.
To me, there was one game last year where you looked at Davis and said, okay, they won that game in large part because of Davis. And it was at the Ravens, in overtime last year. Now, A.J. Brown had a monster touchdown catch, and Derrick Henry ran all over him. But it was Corey Davis had a game against the Ravens. Go
back and look at opening day against the Broncos. Tell me how they do without Corey Davis.
Well, they don't Broncos anymore. But
hey, did they win that game?
It's meaningful games. I felt like last year in the playoffs, he goose egg the Packers big game
that was bad.
Goose egg. I just never. And this is nothing personal with Corey Davis, but I could not invest in a guy who I can't count on in a big game.
Look, $12 million is a lot to invest. There's no doubt about it.
That's like a clown.
I still want to know why he had to leave that game against Baltimore. We never got an answer.
Now, Vrabel did come to his defense really quickly on that, so I figured it was probably like a concussion or something.
Yeah, but when you don't clear the air, all you lead to is speculation and doubt.
I am a speculator.
Well, he didn't give you a choice.
Oh, no, for sure.
You weren't given a choice, and
my favorite,
and that puts players in a bad spotlight to me.
My favorite was Chris Sanders. Might as well have been on the Corey Davis payroll with how much he just all over Corey Davis. And John Robinson had his press conference after the season and was asked about Jonnu and Corey Davis. And, John said something generic like, oh, yeah, we're looking at a lot of guys, and we're just really excited for what they did. And, love to have great football players on our team, and they were great guys who did everything we asked of them as Titans. And Chris looked at me and goes, they're gone. I was like, what? He's like, oh, I could just tell from that. And, again, I don't know what Robinson said exactly. I'm just kind of summarizing what I think he may have said. But Chris Sanders, who is the biggest Corey Davis fan in the world, wanted to franchise tag him at $16 million, who is the biggest Corey Davis fan. Chris Sanders is like, gone. See ya. They're out of here. And quickly they were gone.
When you don't get these guys signed before their contracts are up, it's a pretty good sign that they're not coming back. You know me. I like Corey Davis. I'm not going to say he's an elite NFL receiver, but I like him. I think he's a good player, and the thing I like about him as well is he makes your team better even without catching the football. That's not why you sign receivers, I know, but he can make your team better in other ways, and not every receiver can say that.
I will give you that, and I do wonder about the downfield blocking for Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown this year without Corey Davis. Corey Curtis, News 2, as always, joining us on the program. Appreciate you, Corey.
All right, enjoy the game.
We will talk soon. TN Nation coming up this week?
Next week. Week 1 next week. Well, no show this week because of 9/11.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I am totally for that. Corey Curtis, News 2, as always. Again, Corey Curtis presented by Invigorate Health out in Mount Juliet, invigoratehealthtn.com. Let's get to Corey's thought. We'll get to the texts and we'll get to the game thoughts and whatnot. But let's get to Corey's thought here in just a second about Corey Davis. Though I'm I'm not ruling what he said out. I don't think it's that crazy. We'll get to that, though, coming up next. First, though, let me tell you about my friends at Edmunds. That's right. Look, car buying is stressful. It is a major purchase, and you will be dealing with the ramifications of that for years. So let my friends at Edmunds help take some of the stress off. Buying a car can be overwhelming, especially now that the demand is back, and my friends at Edmunds have been taking the stress out of that for 50 years. Their editors drive over 500,000 miles every year, testing thousands of hours on hundreds of new vehicles. They review almost every car on the market and rank the best ones in each category. It makes it very easy for you. That's Edmunds. Again, if you're looking to buy a car, let's narrow it down a little bit. They've got helpful filters so you can search by color, model, special features, engine type, drivetrain, price, distance, and more. They even show you dealerships that are offering you home delivery, which I prefer because they'll just bring it right to you. Edmunds is here to guide you to your perfect vehicle. Visit Edmunds.com to see their best car rankings and search for vehicles near you. That's EDMUNDS.com. Edmunds. For cars, there's Edmunds.
I think that the ceiling is right where it's at already. They're not going to change their style and their approach at all. You add a guy like Julio Jones to the mix, you're getting a bona fide playmaker who can do some things in the passing game. Now, Corey Davis was there a year ago, and Corey Davis basically, let's round the numbers up, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. A.J. Brown was a 1,000-yard receiver. Julio Jones is not all of a sudden becoming an 1,800-yard receiver because they're not going to take the ball away from Derrick Henry on the offensive side. That offense goes because of Derrick Henry. Can Tannehill lead them to a Super Bowl with this offensive roster? Absolutely 199.9%. But there's a big but there. And the but is the defensive side of the ball. That's the Tennessee Titans' problem is the defensive side of the ball.
They can't stop a nosebleed.
That was Keyshawn Johnson on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max talking about the Titans. Keyshawn has never had anything nice to say about the Titans. Not to say that Keyshawn's a Titan hater, because I don't even know Keyshawn, but Corey Curtis ended his segment on this Fireball Hot Take Friday by telling us he thinks Corey Davis will have more receiving yards than Julio Jones. And he acted like this was like the hottest take of all time for any Fireball Hot Take on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. I think it was because he knew his audience and knows that I'm not a huge Corey Davis guy.
Yeah.
But as I said to him, and to Keyshawn's point, Derrick Henry gets the ball here.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown's going to catch the ball. Chester Rogers is going to catch the ball. Let's be like, the fans need to understand something for Sunday. Chester Rogers is going to catch the ball. He's going to be a part of this offense. And I'm not going to say a big part of the offense, but Chester Rogers, I think Tannehill trusts him. He's that slot receiver. I think that it's not a fib. I think Vrabel is telling the truth when they have him on the depth chart ahead of Josh Reynolds. So I think that Reynolds is going to have some big games too. I think that Chester Rogers is going to have some big games. So, like, I can see it. And when I think of the Jets, they've got Zach Wilson, their quarterback, who's going to be out there just throwing the ball. I don't even know who their running back is in the Jets.
I can tell you.
Tevin Coleman.
They
have him, and they drafted Michael Carter.
From UNC?
I think so, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't, Tevin Coleman's
He's
on the
third on
back
their depth
nine.
chart.
And, I mean, Devontae Freeman, the other guy with Tevin Coleman back when they were good, like, he's just doing what, he's working he's bagging groceries and then goes to the Ravens because they got
the Ravens practice squad.
So I could see it because the Jets are going to throw the ball a bunch because they're terrible. And the Titans, I'm hoping, and I don't know what Arizona's rush defense was last year, and I do think that the rush defense will improve with J.J. Watt because J.J. Watt is the kind of guy who, everything for the team, and he'll put his body out there on the line no matter what. But let's see, rushing defense last year, Arizona was 22nd in the league. So I feel, and they were 21st in rushing attempts. So teams weren't really running the ball much on Arizona, and they were running the ball effectively on Arizona running the football. 4.6 yards a crack, which was 25th in the NFL. I hope Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards on Sunday.
He very well could.
And if that happens, Julio Jones is not going to catch a lot of yards. Now, Julio and AJ and Derrick and Ryan and all those guys have said all the right things, which is that they don't care about the stats and they only care about winning. And let me say this, I only care about winning. I don't care about the stats. So I guess that's my way of saying, I don't think Corey is nuts to say that Corey Davis will have more yards than Julio Jones. But I'm not a stat guy. I don't even play fantasy football. So, I'm not a stat guy.
Well, Julio is one very key component, but he is one component of all of these different moving parts in the Titans offense.
Sure.
Corey Davis plays for a crap team. Jamison Crowder's also out this week, their other starting wide receiver with COVID. So Corey Davis is one big part of the Jets offense that doesn't really have that many parts. So to your point, I don't really think that it would be the biggest surprise in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Corey Davis is the better wide receiver. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Titans made a mistake letting him go and signing Julio Jones. That just means that the Titans have a different offense, and the Titans can rely on different aspects of their offense to where Julio Jones just doesn't rack up 1,800 yards in a season, and that's okay.
Well, just remember,
and he's also old.
Jameis Winston, 3 years ago, led the NFL in passing. That I thought that kind of stood out more to me was him thinking that the Titans offense should be able to dictate what they do to everybody and not see. I think that it's pick your poison. I think that the offense should be, and we'll use Arizona as an example this week. Vance Joseph has no secondary other than Budda Baker. He's got Budda Baker and a bunch of bums. And they're going to try to cover A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and Anthony Ferguson and Chester Rogers and Derrick Henry, though Derrick Henry's probably not coming much out of the backfield. And I see this, and I think, you got to pick. You going to protect your sorry corners, or are you going to load the box with your big pass rushers and try to come after the quarterback? Because you can't have both. And whichever one you do, I'm doing the other. So if you're dropping everybody back because, we are so afraid of Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, I'm handing the ball to Derek.
Right, every single time.
And if you're putting 9 in the box, I'm telling those two guys, you got one-on-ones, you better win.
Uh-huh.
So he says that the Titans should go out there and do whatever they want with these guys. I don't believe that. I mean, I think that, and Ian, you'll remember this. One of Floyd's very famous sayings was that you can always stop the run in the NFL because you can always bring one more guy than the offense can block, which makes sense because you have a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're gonna block everybody, that's 9 guys blocking. I can bring 11 guys on defense. And I say that to say that teams are going to try to take something away. It's when they take that away, they can't take the other things away. You can't let the other things get taken away in your offense. So that's where I disagree with Corey more so than the whole Corey Davis thing.
So you disagree with the fact that the Titans dictate on offense?
Yes, I don't think they will. I mean, I don't think that they can walk into anybody and say, we're going to play our game no matter what you do to us.
No, I think they can do that against Arizona.
I
don't think that they can do that.
Arizona's got some dogs now. They got some pass rushers on defense.
I think that they can do that. I don't think that they can do that every game. And I do think that they have to be strategic.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Fireball Hot Take Friday. What do we have in there? Into the text line.
One texter texts in to the text line. Mark from Paris says, I'm a huge Cowboys fan, and Dak looked awesome, and I think the Cowboys will win the East. Now, after what I have seen, no way the Bucs are not going undefeated. I don't think it's that important. But
The last thing I want to hear after a week one game in which the Cowboys lost is what Cowboy fans have to say. Yeah, I mean, there is nothing that is more predictable than the Cowboys losing and Cowboys fans being like, this is our year.
I do think that Cowboy fans have the right to be optimistic. I don't think that Cowboy fans have the right to say, you know what,
Definitely.
Even though we almost won,
we're
winning the Super Bowl. I think they have the right to be optimistic.
Said definitely winning the East after losing last night.
Yeah. Mark from Paris also says Zeke has got to get better in the O-line too. I don't know if it's Zeke not being good or if it's just Mike McCarthy refusing to run the ball.
I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Maybe he refuses to run the ball because Zeke is bad.
Yeah, no, not. That one I struggle with. We'll hit the headlines with Carolina. We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Again, we are live at First Horizon Park on this Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are live at First Horizon Park where the Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds tonight. Let's go away. Let's just go ahead and give away something. I'm in a good mood. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday.
Let's do it.
So let's just go ahead and do it. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to the Highland Games and Celtic Festival at Percy Warner Park this Saturday. Fun-filled day with Celtic games, Scottish and Irish dancers, Celtic music, kids' activities, food, and so much more. Good luck for you on that. 615-737-1025. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, we are live again at First Horizon Park Sounds tonight as they take on the Memphis Redbirds. Week 1 right around the corner. Caroline's in the next hour. Chad Withrow later today. And, of course, 6-pack picks. But it is time now for Headlines with Caroline.
We're spanning the sports world. It's Headlines with Caroline on Stillman and Company, right here on Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Headlines with Caroline, presented by Fiero Tequila, the spiciest infused tequila on the market. The world belongs to the brave.
First and foremost, there will be some new members of the Big 12 became official today. The Big 12 presidents and chancellors unanimously voted to accept BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF into the conference. So in a statement, BYU has already announced that it'll be joining the conference in the 2023-2024 season. But BYU is an independent, so they don't really have any red tape that they have to go through.
Sure, they're single. They don't have to dump somebody in order to...
Exactly. Yeah, they're free reign. But Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF all belong to the ACC, and ACC bylaws require a 27-month notice before they leave, and they pay a $10 million buyout. So 2023 is a stretch for them to be able to make it there for the 2023 season, but it's not impossible. If they decide to leave early, it's just a higher buyout. So always a possibility for those 4 schools to all be set in their new home in the Big 12 by 2023. However, Texas and Oklahoma are not slated to leave the Big 12 until 2025. So it could be a possibility that Texas, Oklahoma, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF are all in the Big 12 at the same time.
That would be like the Big 18.
Yeah, it's really big.
That would be embarrassing for Texas.
The Thick 12.
In their last Big 12 game to lose to Cincinnati. But
welcome to the SEC.
I will say this. So I got in the car today, and Darren, Donick, and Chase were on, and I didn't know if they had a guest or not because I got in, and this guy was talking on the phone. And this, like, old P-Pop was on the phone. And I didn't know if he was a guest or not. And, you know, like Darren, Donick, and Chase, like, they're nicer than we are, so they let the callers talk a little bit longer than probably we do.
Yeah.
And, like, this old P-Pop was talking about Memphis not getting into the Big 12 or whatever. And I was thinking about it as I was listening to him talk. He said something that, like, and I have no idea if this is true or not, that Fred Smith, the owner of FedEx, offered the Big 12 $20 million if they put Memphis in. And they still said no for bringing Memphis in. And I just want to state for the record, I have no idea if that's true. I texted Chase and I go, who is this old Bebop? And he said it was a caller. And so I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I thought it was like a guest. Like the guy was talking so long, he sounded like a guest. And I'm like, who is this guest? And he's saying that Memphis is offering $20 million and still not getting into a conference. So let me say this.
I don't know what their beef with Memphis is, though.
I have no sourcing on this. I have done zero fact checking. But I want this to be true, that Memphis is trying to buy their way into the Big 12, and they're still saying no because Memphis sucks. Like
Memphis doesn't suck.
Memphis sucks.
Memphis does not suck.
The city of Memphis sucks.
Oh, are you talking about the city of Memphis, or are you talking about the football program Memphis?
All of it.
You're such a hater.
Ian, does Memphis suck?
Never been there.
Memphis does not suck.
Memphis sucks.
I don't think Memphis sucks. I think it's a fun city.
Anybody who Memphis is the definition of second-class Tennessee city.
Wow. Hater.
Hey, the NFL.
Sipping on, I don't know. Everyone in the state of Tennessee that's not in Memphis hates Memphis.
Memphis thought that they were on the short list to get an NFL team. And then when the Titans decided to go to Nashville, oh my god, oh, it's great. So Memphis, their history is like littered with like USFL and XFL.
The Memphis Showboats.
So then they got the Vancouver Grizzlies.
They didn't have an XFL team.
Memphis?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they had the Memphis Maniacs and the original XFL.
OG XFL.
Yeah. So Memphis had a team, and we're not offending anybody talking bad about Memphis, are we?
I'm offended.
No, you're not. So
okay. Okay.
So then
that's where my mom's from.
And she was smart enough to leave. and so, anywho, that's just a long, drawn-out way of saying, like, Memphis wanted a football team, and they got a basketball team. Like, Memphis.
Basketball's fun, too.
And don't even get me started on Memphis State. Do not even get me started.
What's
on
your
that.
deal with Memphis State?
Well, it's like I'm talking about Memphis, the college.
Okay, so
When
University
I
of
talk about
Memphis.
Memphis,
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Memphis State. The only time they're any good at basketball is when they cheat.
Which
Calipari, Penny.
that's fine.
And Penny's not even good.
Everybody cheats in basketball.
It's like taxes. It's like taxes. You know, it's like, was that really a business lunch? I don't know. But if you
Now
get
it
caught,
is.
I don't feel bad about
Now it
There
is.
you go. What's next?
So the Baltimore Ravens have reached a one-year deal with Latavius Murray, who recently was just released by the Saints because they couldn't come up with a
By the way,
contract redeal.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Sean Fort,
Yes.
our sales manager.
He is from Memphis, and I'm sure he is
from
offended.
Memphis, who was smart enough to leave Memphis, says he's offended.
As he should be.
Uh-huh.
He has every right to be offended. I'm sure we will get a text from my mom in the text line, if it's not her right now, saying that she is offended as well.
What is Latavius Murray up to?
Latavius Murray is the newest Baltimore Raven. They reached a one-year deal worth up to $2 million this year. So I think it's funny that Latavius Murray refused to take a pay cut from the Saints, and now he's making less money in Baltimore than he would have made in New Orleans.
What did I tell you the other day?
What did you tell me?
I
the other
can't
day?
get on a guy for not taking a pay cut. If the guy
No,
is not
no,
willing to
no.
take a pay cut, I can't
If he
get on
doesn't
it.
want to
But-
take it, that's fine. That doesn't
but
make
what
you
I- But I
selfish.
said, good luck to finding $3 million.
Yeah.
At this point in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll say this. The Baltimore Ravens are so hurt at the running back position right now that they are like the city of Memphis with sports teams that aren't football teams. It's like we can't find a real running back, so we're going to go sign every other running back, which is what the city of Memphis is. They can't get football. They can't get into the Big 12, but it's like, you know, hey, we'll take basketball and XFL and minor league baseball. You know, take it all.
Gator Tim texts in and says Memphis is a crap hole.
Memphis sucks. What's next?
Jeez Louise, so much Memphis hate today. So according to Fanatics, Mac Jones and Justin Fields, two guys who have yet to play a single down in the NFL, are two of the 5 leading in jersey sales.
Sure.
Since August 1st. So
since Tim Tebow got cut, this is...
Yeah, since the Tim Tebow jersey sales have slowed down a bit, do you know who is number 1? This kind of surprised me a little bit.
Okay, let me think. So
Justin Fields and Mac Jones are 2 in the top 5.
Okay, they're 2 in the top 5. Number 1. It's usually like, you know, it's not Brady, is it? Because like Brady's always up there. Like
Brady's
Brady and Dak are always there, no matter what.
Brady is 3.
I'm gonna say this is probably like a guy on a new team. New team?
No.
Not a guy on a new team.
No.
Lamar Jackson.
Josh Allen.
Okay, so not a guy on a new team, but a guy who is newly
good.
famous. Yes.
Newly good.
Yes.
Yes. Josh Allen 1. Mac Jones is 2. Tom Brady 3. Justin Fields 4. Patrick Mahomes 5.
That is not totally surprising.
Really?
Yeah, Dak.
Well, I
not
guess
being there
everyone
is the
has a
only
Patrick
thing.
Mahomes jersey already. If you want
Right.
one, you probably have one, so
Right.
it's not going to be number 1. Josh Allen, there's so much hype surrounding the Bills coming off of a big season last year. It surprised me at first. It did, because I expected it to be, you know, a Tom Brady or maybe even like, you know, a newly drafted player. But yeah,
Sure.
Josh Allen.
It's always like something like that. Like there's a new element.
A
to
player just got
whomever
traded.
is-
Like I'm sure
Yes.
Brady jerseys whenever he was traded to the Bucks,
Oh,
through the roof.
It was like at one point, like during the pandemic, Fanatics released that the highest selling jerseys in the NFL were number 1, Brady home, number 2, Brady road, number 3, Brady alternate.
That's
like that
crazy.
Was number 4, Brady throwback. Like
Yeah.
it was
All
unbelievable.
Brady jerseys.
That people that were buying Brady jerseys, but you know, it's kind of like the city of Memphis, where like
back to Memphis.
if there's nothing that you have to offer, nobody wants to buy your jersey. What's next?
My mom says she's only kind of offended.
She knows what I'm talking about.
So, if you were expecting to see Trevor Bauer at all this season, you were wrong. Because the Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association agreed with Trevor Bauer that his administrative leave will be extended through the end of the 2021 season. So he's been away from Major League Baseball since July 2nd, while there's a legal investigation into a sexual assault allegation. So he will be away for the remainder of the season. There was a statement released that said today Trevor Bauer agreed to extend his administrative leave through the playoffs in a measure of good faith and in an effort to minimize any distraction to the Dodgers organization and his teammates. He continues to cooperate with the MLB investigation and refute the baseless allegations against him. So I kind of expected this to come because they've extended it like 5, 6, 7 times. Like it just keeps. So I kind of expected this, but it is a hit to the Dodgers.
Those are headlines with Caroline. Let me tell you about the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I love the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is not the Memphis of FanDuel Sportsbook apps. It is just fantastic. Week 1 is here, though you can use your FanDuel Sportsbook app in Memphis, which if I were to go to Memphis, that's exactly what I would do to bet these games. NFL Week 1 is here. The fridge is stocked. The recliner is ready. And now all you need to do is log into the FanDuel Sportsbook app and claim your first risk-free bet. That's right. FanDuel is giving all customers a risk-free bet just in time for Week 1 of the NFL season. So you can throw it all risk-free on the Titans if you'd like to on Sunday, or you can make a same-game parlay. Derrick Henry's rushing yards, Tannehill anytime touchdown score. You tell me. Let me know. Use FanDuel Sportsbook on any Week 1 game. Bet the money line or take the over. Throw some action on a prop bet or build a same-game parlay. Bet there are so many ways to play. If you're new to FanDuel, use the promo code JGM. Again, that is promo code JGM. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issue is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. I also want to tell everybody out there that Headlines with Caroline, my very favorite segment where we talk about Memphis. In fact, we can call it, Memphis Headlines. That is presented by Furo Tequila, the spiciest infused tequila on the market. The world belongs to the brave. Coming up next, could there be one Titan that truly breaks out this season? And it started on Sunday. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are live from First Horizon Park, where the Sounds play at 7:05, taking on the
Memphis Redbirds, 901, baby.
The Redbirds players are so glad to be spending 6 days in Nashville before they have to go back to Memphis.
They probably love Memphis.
They could not be more ecstatic to not be in Memphis. You said the text line, by the way, is blowing up over all the people talking about Memphis?
It was like ping, 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 ping. And a lot of people were like, yeah, no, you're right. Memphis is the worst. But we do have some very angry Memphians.
Give me a percentage of the pro-Memphis to anti-Memphis.
Pro-Memphis is like 20%.
Okay.
Anti-Memphis is like 80%.
I rest my case.
I think it's a great town. My grandparents live there. My mom grew up there. It's like a second home to me.
I rest my case.
What does that mean?
Let me say this. I believe in week 1 of the NFL season, there's always a breakout player. We talked about this last hour, about whether or not Kyler Murray could be a breakout player in 2021. Josh Allen was a breakout player last year. Lamar Jackson was a breakout player the year before that. Patrick Mahomes was a breakout player before that. Carson Wentz was the breakout player in 2017. Derek Carr was the breakout player in 2016. It happens almost every year. And I wonder this. Is this the day that Ryan Tannehill breaks out? Now, Tannehill, we've said for years, Tannehill is at his best when he throws for 245 yards, couple of touchdowns, no picks, efficiently runs the offense, hands the ball to Derrick Henry, short passes, on the money, in rhythm, timing, A.J. Brown, yes. But this offense is different. Josh Reynolds said on Robbie and Rex Road that right now it's looking dangerous in practice with all the weapons that they have. In fact, he said it twice. He said looking dangerous twice. And I am not a huge, as I tell you all the time about the FanDuel Sportsbook app, I'm not a huge futures bettor, but I always think in the MVP race, it's never going to be, unless there's nobody else to give it to, it's never going to be the obvious choice. Michael Jordan, for example, felt offended that Charles Barkley won an MVP in 93, that Karl Malone won the MVP in 97, when in reality, every year that Michael Jordan played after like 1985, he was the most valuable player in the NBA. The Bulls, I don't think, have been any good since the day Michael walked out anyways. And yet, Michael got so mad that they gave it to Charles Barkley. Nick Saban doesn't win Coach of the Year every year in the SEC. It is a lot harder for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, like he did last year, to win the MVP award. But you know, the media, I think, kind of looked at Aaron as a guy who had fallen down some, and they had drafted Jordan Love, and so it was kind of a big deal. Tannehill, to me, is the perfect MVP candidate this year because not a lot of people are going to put a lot of money on Tannehill. In fact, most people, most national pundits would tell you today that Derrick Henry is more likely to be the MVP of the Titans than Ryan Tannehill. And in reality, Derrick may be the most valuable player to the offense, but I just look at it this year, and I think this is going to be the year that Ryan Tannehill breaks out. And I think this game is going to give us an indication of whether or not Ryan Tannehill is going to break out. Let's think about the Arizona Cardinals for a second. They were 25th in the league last year at rushing yards per carry. At about, I think, 4.7 they allowed per rush. Well, Derrick Henry, as we all know, is one of the best in the NFL when it comes to yards per rush. We saw the Ravens completely sell out in the playoffs last year to stop Derrick Henry, and it worked for them. But every team that the Titans play, at least early on, is going to be worried about number 22 first. And while there are a bunch of names, and it's fun to say, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, and even us here, we like Anthony Ferguson and we like Chester Rogers, the guy that everybody's really talking about across the league is Derrick Henry. And because of that, I think these teams are going to key in on Henry. I think Arizona is going to do it on Sunday. And I think, as I said to TD yesterday, Corey Curtis today said on the air, what's Vance Joseph in Arizona going to do? I think they're going to stack the box. And I think they're going to say, all right, Tannehill, you got to beat us. And this is where the public opinion of Tannehill, Keyshawn Johnson ranks him below Cam Newton. He's not in the top 10 in Jeremy Fowler's surveying of NFL executives and coaches. He's not in the top 80 of the NFL players voting on the top 100. Then there's everybody here that thinks you can win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill. And I am one of the people that thinks that you can win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill, though I think we should all demand more out of Tannehill than we got last year in the playoffs, 165 with a touchdown and a pick against the Ravens. I think this is the beginning for Ryan Tannehill. And I think you're going to see the Arizona Cardinals come out and say, okay, Budda Baker is going to be over the top, making sure that nothing bad happens. Everybody else is down inside to try to stop Derrick Henry. Because if you don't try to stop Derrick Henry, you're going to lose because Derrick Henry's going to beat you. And I think this is the year that Tannehill goes off. I'm not saying Tannehill is going to win the league's most valuable player. And I'm not saying Tannehill is the league's most valuable player. My argument is that I think that this week will be the week that kind of raises some eyebrows of, you think Ryan Tannehill? Wow. Look at what Ryan Tannehill just did. In fact, Tannehill entered the MVP discussion last year after a game in which the Titans smoked Buffalo, and Tannehill threw for like 140 yards. The people said, is Tannehill an MVP candidate? And maybe at the end of the day, Tannehill won't be in the discussion for the award because he plays on a team with Derrick Henry, and everybody will say, well, that's just Derrick Henry. And maybe they're right. But I got to believe, and I'm not, as I said, I would not have made the trade for Julio Jones. I have to believe Julio Jones feels respected right now with the Titans and feels like he's got to prove the fact that, hey, they invested in me. They believed in me. Atlanta wanted to get rid of me. Nobody else across the league wanted to trade for me and pay me the money. They're the one team. A.J. Brown's got to think, hey, I am an elite number one wide receiver. I'm going to prove it, and my quarterback is going to get me there. And then the trust that Tannehill has with Ferguson and Rodgers. I think this is the breakout year, and I think Sunday's the breakout game for Ryan Tannehill. And if I was Vance Joseph and I was trying to scheme up something against the Titans, Tannehill would scare the crap out of me. Because the one thing we know about him is he's a smart quarterback. And he's not going to do something, even if, hey, you know what, it's a little bit of a risk to do this, and I don't know. If he thinks it could hurt the team, he's not going to do it. So to me, I'm excited for Sunday. As I said, I'm nervous. I'm nervous that these Titans aren't as good as we thought they'd be. I'm nervous that, they may be a little rusty because they haven't practiced much. I'm nervous because a bounce here, a bounce there, something like that could cost you. I'm nervous about all that. But I really believe this is Tannehill's year. Is that local homer talk about the star quarterback, or are the stars aligning for Ryan Tannehill to have one of those kind of seasons?
I don't think that's a totally local homer take. I would say two things that make me question. Mm-hmm. One of them being the same reason why we don't think it's that outrageous that Corey Davis could have more receiving yards than Julio Jones. And that's because of Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. If this is going to be such a run-focused, run-first offense, which I believe, you have to believe that it is going to be, they're not going to completely change this offense and alienate Derrick Henry.
And if they do that, it's because something bad happened.
Yes.
And that Derrick's not as good as he once was, or
yes.
all of those things.
So, and I think that people, especially people outside of Nashville, if you're talking about the national conversation, people still think or people believe that Ryan Tannehill is only as good as Derrick Henry is. Sure. That this is a run-first offense. So I think that is one thing that could stand in the way of Ryan Tannehill really being viewed as a potential MVP candidate. And the other thing is maybe Todd Downing. And am I worried about Todd Downing stepping in and filling in this OC role? No, I'm not, honestly. I'm not. He's been around the block. Ian and I were talking about this on Monday. Like, he sat in on meetings. He under Arthur Smith. He's been around the block. I'm not that worried.
Sure.
But is it maybe too soon with a new offensive coordinator in a new offensive system for Ryan Tannehill to really break out? Or is this the perfect kind of system to set him up for a successful MVP year? So that's what I don't know.
You brought up Downing, and I will say this about Downing. Nobody is questioning whether or not Downing will be a good play caller this year. Mm-hmm. And I sit there with everybody else like, well, I mean, they basically handed him the keys to the car and said, don't wreck it. Mm-hmm. But Fitz said that year that he was calling plays in Oakland, and, Fitzy's a diehard Raiders fan, Downing was awful. Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't give us cause for concern, but it should be in the back of our minds that perhaps that could be an issue that the Titans have to deal with.
For sure.
I mean, so I don't disagree. I feel like this is put up or shut up time for Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
This is, there's a couple of things this year with Ryan Tannehill, and Sunday's a part of it. One is quarterback wins is a stat. Like, you go to footballreference.com, and there's not a stat for Derrick Henry wins and losses. Wins and losses is a quarterback stat, and this year that's the case with Tannehill. 2, I think there's no way Derrick Henry can run for 2,000 yards again or be the same kind of back. I mean, at some point, it's got to go downhill. Even if it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom, it's got to start to decline a little bit. And I think most people would probably feel that way. And then the third thing is, like, everybody here thinks that you're the guy. Everybody here thinks you are the man. And nobody else around the country thinks that. And I think that it takes, a 338-yard passing day from Tannehill on Sunday in order to get people to go, whoa, now, that Titan offense, as Josh Reynolds said, is dangerous. And I think Tannehill gets it done. Maybe I'm a local homer. I don't know. But I just feel like this is Tannehill's opportunity to break out. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. What are the expectations for Tannehill this week? And if you're Arizona, are you worried about Tannehill? How much are you worried about Tannehill? How much do the teams that play the Titans worry about Tannehill? We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are delivered on this Fireball Hot Take Friday by TriStar Moving. You know I love TriStar Moving. I've been telling you about TriStar Moving for a while, since I moved in November, and I used TriStar Moving, and it was fantastic. They made the entire process so simple. That's why their motto is TriStar Movers with 5-star service. From the initial phone call to the final signature, moving became a breeze. They offer home protection, covering your floors, banisters, railings, door jambs, even the doors themselves. They're always upping the game when it comes to mover training. All my furniture was absolutely taken care of, and all of my mattresses were placed in bags and TVs in boxes. They even have a state-of-the-art storage facility in case you need a safe place for all of your stuff. They do it all. This company is on the rise in a hurry, and it's because of the standard they hold, and I can back that up because I used them and I loved them. So give my friends at TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit their website, nationalmoving.org/radio. They'll give you 5% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you for 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Do you have an idea at this point of how much Julio will help AJ and the offense as a whole?
Well, definitely. The more weapons you have across the field, teams can't zone in on any one person or group. So you pair AJ with Julio and Ferkser and Chet, and then you got Derek in the back. They can't kind of lock in on okay, if we take away this guy, then they're going to struggle. So definitely makes your offense more dynamic if you can stress teams in multiple areas of the field.
By the way, how about in that clip right there, Tannehill kind of giving away that Chester Rogers is more important than Josh Reynolds? Because he's sitting there saying, hey, you got AJ, Julio, Derek, Chet, and I had to think, who the hell is Chet? And Chester Rogers. And then Ferk, they got all these guys, and didn't say Josh Reynolds.
Well, to be fair, Chester Rogers is listed above Josh Reynolds on the depth chart.
No,
So
I told you at Tampa Bay at the practices when I went to that first one where the Titans just kicked the crap out of the Bucs, and I came to you and I said, I said on the air, I think it was in the first segment, I think Rodgers is the slot right now over Reynolds.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't going as crazy as Chris Sanders and saying they should cut Josh Reynolds. But I said I think Tannehill really trusts Rodgers, and clearly right there. I'm just saying. I think this is going to be the breakout year for Tannehill. Breakout year, MVP type season. I think it starts on Sunday against Arizona because I think Vance Bedford loads the box, is afraid to death that Derrick Henry's going to beat him. Let's go to your phones. 615-737-1025. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keith is going to kick us off here on Stillman & Company. Go ahead, Keith.
Hey, guys. Jared, I hate to admit it, but I'm going to agree with you. I think that Tannehill is the best quarterback we've had since Warren Moon. McNair was a great football player, but I don't feel like he was a great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good quarterback.
Well, he was a league MVP.
Huh?
He was a league MVP, and he did get the Titans to the Super Bowl. And if you remember that Super Bowl game, he engineered a double-digit fourth-quarter comeback. And had the Titans won that game, he would have been the game's MVP.
Yes, and that's the reason why I say he's a great football player is because he just had that knack of how to lead. But anyway, I just think that Tannehill has proven who he really is in the last couple of years. And I think that this year is going to be his. And, don't get me wrong, it's going to be everybody's, but it's going to be his because it's everybody's. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yep. I appreciate your call, Keith. Yep, I appreciate your call. I will say this about the whole Tannehill-McNair thing. When I was a little bit younger, and by younger I mean 27, or 26 or
a few years ago.
I remember talking to my dad. This was when LeBron beat Golden State. Golden State had the best team ever, and LeBron beat them in the finals. And I said, I do think that LeBron is closing in on Michael a little bit. And my dad, you would have thought that I said, the most offensive thing that I have ever said at the Stillman house. And my dad was like, nope. And I was like, you barely even watched. He's like, yep. I'm like, LeBron is really good. He's not as good as Michael. I'm like, what could LeBron do that would make you think that LeBron is better than Michael? He's like, I'm not sure there's anything LeBron could do. And I kind of feel that way about the McNair and Tannehill thing. I feel personally like, Tannehill's going to end up with better stats than McNair. Mm-hmm. Tannehill's more efficient than McNair, but the game's just different. The game is totally different than it was then.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say about McNair is that situation Tannehill found himself in the playoff game against the Ravens, where he didn't lead them back to victory. As a fan, you always felt like Steve McNair was going to lead you back in that kind of game. And I know it's crazy. Tannehill led the league in fourth-quarter comebacks, game-winning drives last year, but I have a hard time putting Tannehill ahead of Steve McNair. That's just me. By the way, speaking of the Jordan and LeBron debate, so I saw this viral clip that was going around of Michael Irvin yelling at Stephen A. Smith on First Take. And I guess they queued up, Michael Irvin's first day to yell at Stephen A. Smith, which is exactly what that was. It's like wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's all theatrical.
Oh, and Michael Irvin, nobody does it better than him. Do you? But the argument was, who's the better GOAT, Brady or Jordan? And, like, I think that's such a sad sack loser topic. What do we do to get people riled up?
That kind of sounds like, all right, we don't know what to talk about today, so we'll just defer to the GOAT discussion.
Well, I think it was like, let's get everybody worked up, and the number one way to wind people up is to have Michael Irvin yell about this.
And that's the thing about this discussion. There's no right answer.
But can I say this about as far as that was concerned? Like, I am very conflicted as to who the better GOAT is between Brady and Jordan. And I love Jordan.
But you love Brady too.
I love Tom Brady. I know it's stupid. I know it's stupid. ESPN's doing it to get Michael Irvin to yell.
You just got ESPN'd on that one.
I know what they're doing. I know what they're doing.
But you're falling for it anyways.
Yes. It's like when you buy the candy for Halloween and you're going to end up eating most of it. And you do end up eating most of it. And then trick-or-treaters come to the door, and they're like, knock, knock. And now you're the giant ass who lives on the street that doesn't have any candy because you ate it all because you're a fatty. Which, by the way, I think you could tell I've kind of gone through this before in my life.
It sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Oh, it's
But who hasn't?
Dude, okay, so.
Been there.
I can't believe I'm telling you this story. So one time on Halloween, I was... Okay, so one time on Halloween, I was in the middle of a relationship that was kind of off the rail. I was and so I decided to play the game of fate to see whether or not this relationship would work out. So I took the little mini Starburst, and they either are now they can mix them however they want, but normally it's either the bad packet or the good packet.
You either get the reds and the pinks, or you get 2 yellows.
Yellow and orange.
I like the orange. But I understand I'm in the minority of that.
But so I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then if we got a pink and a yellow, then we had to start over again. You had to go
one
open
good
up
one,
another
one bad one.
So I was like, okay, if we get the pink and the red, the relationship works. If we get the orange and the yellow,
oh boy,
the relationship's over. And I think I opened up 4 packs, and then I think I got a pink and a red. And then the relationship didn't work out. So the Starburst,
And that's the kind of thing where you're like, no, well, I was going to pick this other one, so this one doesn't count. This one with 2 yellows, this one doesn't count.
But that
is a very, very bold thing to do, though, leaving your relationship up to Starburst.
But my whole point being that I got sucked in on this Brady-Jordan GOAT debate, and I don't know who I think the better GOAT is. Just like Ryan Tannehill could win the league MVP this year, and if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I'm going to have a hard time saying he's a better quarterback than Steve McNair.
Well, in the whole Brady-Jordan discussion, you could make the argument, well, there's more players in football, so Brady doesn't play as big of a role. Jordan is 1 of 5 on the court, so he made a bigger contribution to the game. And then you could say... you can make so much. Yeah, you can make arguments for either side. But I just ESPN'd myself.
Yeah, this is too much July talk over here. Let's go to Adam, who's up next here on Stillman and Company. Thank you for calling on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's up, Adam?
Hey, man, I just kind of wanted to know what's considered a successful season this year. We got the AFC South under our belt. Would a Super Bowl appearance be considered a successful season, or are we strictly going to judge it off of a Super Bowl championship?
I'm sorry. Thank you for the call. If you make the Super Bowl, it's a successful season.
Oh, 100%.
See, this I don't
the
like
Titans go to the
this.
AFC Championship and lose. I still think that's a successful season.
I don't like doing this, where you say before the season, okay, what defines success? Now, in June and July, we'll have a lot of discussions about what would define success or whatever. But I don't like doing that, to say, okay, you've got to make, the divisional round, or this year's a failure. The Ravens a couple years ago were 14-2, and the Titans went in there and just played better in the divisional round, and the Ravens got knocked out. That Ravens team could have hosted Kansas City the next week, won, gone to the Super Bowl, but that was a successful season for the Ravens. They were 14-2. The Titans were 13-3 after coming off the Super Bowl appearance. Best team in the league. They lost in the first round. So I guess the thing that I would say is, a successful season when you feel it. When the team shows up after it's over, do you see them hey, great job, guys. You gave it your all. You left it on the field, and there's a lot of things to be happy about this year. And I would say that when the Titans went to the AFC title game and they lost to Kansas City and nobody expected it, that was everybody stand and, a standing ovation for the Titans. And Vrabel's the best and Henry's the best. And just, oh, yes, you guys made us so proud. The next year, you win the division. You lose to a Ravens team that I think a lot of us didn't think was better than you. And, yeah, we still celebrated the fact that it was the first division title since 2008 and that the Titans, finally have a quarterback. It looks like they have some direction. But we're also mad that the defense stinks. So in that regard, was last year a successful season? Yes. But I don't think we'll feel that way if the same thing happens this year. But I say that saying, knock on wood, Derrick Henry, gets hurt and the Titans end up still making the playoffs, then I think you have to say, hey, it was still a great season because you're doing it with Mekhi Sargent as your running back. Mm-hmm. So I know that it's again, it's like the ESPN, it's a fun topic to say, okay, that is not acceptable. Like I said, 5-12 is not acceptable.
No.
But other than that, it's hard for me to judge, okay, what would for sure be a successful season. It's like almost all things in life. It's very easy when it's one side or the other. It's hard when it is right there, in a gray area, and it's like, do you like your quarterback? Like, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you love your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Green Bay Packers, you love your quarterback.
Right. If you're the Raiders, do you love your quarterback?
Right.
If you're a Arizona Cardinals fan, I think they probably love their quarterback.
They do right now.
Yeah.
But do you love your quarterback? I know Kansas City loves their quarterback. But
does Denver love Teddy?
No. And does Chicago love Andy Dalton?
No. They do love Justin Fields, though.
Those things that's where I look at, kind of what would be a successful season, yes or no. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your thoughts. Plus, speaking of Derrick Henry, they do like to give him the football. But in week 1, Derrick's a little bit of a slow starter. A little bit in the past. So, how do we expect him to give the ball to Derrick this week? We'll discuss next. Stillman and Company, we are live at First Horizon Park. Again, the Sounds taking on the Memphis Redbirds tonight at 7:05. And Caroline wants to talk to you about BetUS.
I want to tell all the sports bettors out there about my favorite sports book, and that is BetUS. Football is back. Finally, get your bets in for a weekend full of football. Get in on the action with BetUS. They've been America's favorite sportsbook for over 25 years, and that's exactly why I endorse BetUS, because they've been around the block and you can trust them. They have integrity, they have longevity, and with BetUS, you know that you are going to get paid. Plus, they offer everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horses, esports, all kinds of bets. Whatever you want to bet on, I can almost guarantee you they probably have it. You can call BetUS today at 1-800-79-BET-US. They'll walk you through setting up an account, and it is super easy. Their number is 1-800-79-BET-US. Nobody in the industry gives bigger bonuses than BetUS. So if you join now and you mention GAME, G-A-M-E, you can get up to 200% bonuses on your first deposit. That is one of the best in the business. You cannot beat up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. I bet at BetUS, so should you. So go now to BetUS.com. Join today. Put in promo code GAME for up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. That is BetUS.com.
Derek, what do you think of their defense? Having watched it on film, obviously they bring in JJ, got some Zayvon Collins, new guy. I know you got to watch some individuals on other stuff, but what do you think of the speed and just the overall front seven there?
Yeah, they're fast. They do a lot of different things. Also adding JJ, you know what type of player he is. They're physical. They do a lot of different things on defense, run a lot of schemes and things like that. So just trying to watch film as much as we can, just so we're ready for them and whatever they throw at us.
That was Derrick Henry talking about the Arizona defense. Again, Derrick Henry does not say much. Everybody's excited about Derrick Henry. No, he does not.
Too busy.
Everybody's excited about Derrick Henry. But there is the one thing that, and I'm excited about Derrick Henry too. Again, the Arizona Cardinals 25th in the league last year in yards per rushing attempt. They did add J.J. Watt. He's a pass rusher, but good defensive lineman. There is one thing, though, that kind of bothers me. Derrick Henry in the month of September is not the same running back that he is in November, December, and the postseason. For example, and let's take out the first 2 years that Derrick played because, well, Derrick didn't start. So Derrick Henry in the 4 September games in 2018, where he was splitting time with Dion Lewis, 26, 56, 57, 24. By the end of the year, Derrick was 238, 170, 84, and 93.
238?
Yeah, that was the game that really got him going. It was a Thursday night game against Jacksonville.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think one of us had been screaming on the show, let the big dog eat for a while, and then Derrick finally did. And then when he did, and I said, let the big dog eat, one of us chuckled and said, I don't listen to things like that. Anywho.
So he should probably thank you. Credit you for the big game.
I was all about it. His 159, 149, 103, and 86. Last year, 116 on 31 carries. 116, 84, 119, 57. His last four, 215, 147, 98, 250. You see the trend I'm getting at here?
Yes.
Are we worried about that with Derrick Henry? They didn't practice him much this year. They act like they've got the secret formula that allows, them to be able to figure all this out. But in reality, is Derrick a slower starter, and is that something that concerns you going into Sunday against Arizona?
It does look like Derrick is a slower starter, but if you look back at his earlier in the season stats versus end of the season stats, I mean, the early in the season stats, if you compare them to the rest of the running backs in the NFL, it's not like they're bad. They're just lower in the second half. I mean, 250 rushing yards in the second half of the season, that is unreal. So, of course, when you compare it to, a few 80-something yard games, a few 90-something yard games, of course, it's going to make those kind of look a little pathetic. So, yeah, it may take him some time to settle in a little bit, and he's not going to have those 150, 180, 220-yard games maybe in September. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to contribute.
Here's the question. What if Derrick does go off early in the season this year? Like, what if Derrick Henry does? I mean, again, Arizona 25th. And TD said that he would drop back, he wouldn't load the box against Derrick Henry this week because he's so worried about those corners from Arizona, and they're not very good. And he's worried about those corners against AJ and Julio. So if they drop everybody back and the Titans give it to Derrick and he's ripping off 7, 8, 7, 6. I mean, and Derrick has a 143-yard game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then 2,000 is a legitimate question. Do you think they hold him back? Here's another question I also thought about, too, with Derrick. Do they hold him back a little bit this year? Because last year they held him back some, and I was shocked at how open Vrabel was about, we just don't want to get Derrick Henry killed. We don't want to, we don't want to run Derrick Henry down. We don't want to whatever. There's 17 games this year. It's going to be 88 degrees. Derrick Henry did not practice, much with pads on or take hits in the preseason. Could the Titans look at a game like this and say, well, we would love to give it to Derrick 35 times, but we can't because we've got a 17-game season, not a 16-game season, and we got to do what's in the best interest of Derrick, and that worries me too.
I think that they can and they should limit him for a couple of reasons because now they can. Now they can rely on so many other assets on offense.
Like Mekhi Sargent right now is the backup running back.
Okay.
This is a run-first team.
Yeah.
And we said, now Corey Curtis says the Titans should be able to dictate terms on offense. I think that they should take whatever the defense gives them. So if defense loads up the box,
Send it to AJ.
Defense decides that, you know what, we're worried about Julio Jones and A.J. Brown.
Give
hand
it
the
to
ball
Derek.
to Derek. To me, it's that simple. You know, the John Gruden line of, you know, you try to beat this team and Tannehill goes up line of scrimmage. You try to load up the box. He checks out of it. You try to drop it back. He just turns around and hands the ball to that big beast they got back there. Just don't know what you're supposed to do, man.
Pretty good Gruden.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that John Gruden theory of, like, I think that's what they should do. So the idea of, well, you know, they can, you know, rely on the passing game. Yes, but then Mekhi Sargent is in the game, and I don't like that. And then you're not dictating terms because they're not going to load the box for Mekhi Sargent.
Well, do you necessarily need to dictate terms on every single play if it means maintaining Derek a little bit more?
Well, if you're talking about the difference between from 25 to 23 carries, no.
Yes.
If you're talking about the difference between 25 carries and 8, then yes.
Well,
and they did that last year in a couple of games, like the Chicago game. I want to say they did that where they showed Derek on the sidelines. I mean, he had 21 carries. It felt like in that Chicago game, like Derek just wasn't even a factor. He had 18 the week before for 112. That was a game where Arthur Smith screwed up. They could have given Derrick Henry the ball every play, and they'd have beaten the Bengals, and they didn't. And he had 18 for 112, 21 for 68. I mean, that's not that bad.
Right, and then that's kind of what I'm saying is if Derrick Henry doesn't carry the ball 35 times, like, that's okay.
How many carries for Derrick? Looking at it right now, Derrick last year, 31, 25, 26, 19, 22, 20, 18, 21, 19, 28, 27, 15, 26, 24, 23, 34.
Somewhere between the 20 to 25 range, like a 22, 23.
Probably about right.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. Let's hit some of your texts while we are at it. Again, the phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Rick texts into the text line and says the reason Derek's numbers are lower earlier in the season is probably because the defenses are fresh and healthy the first few weeks, especially the first week.
I buy that.
That's a very fair point.
I buy
You're
a couple of things
healthy.
here. I think they're healthy. I think, as Nick Saban said, the thing about Derrick Henry is the more you give him the ball, the better he plays. And the third thing is I think that it's easier to tackle Derrick in warm weather than it is to tackle Derrick in cold weather. I think all those things add up. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says, even if the big dog had 80 yards a game, he would still finish the 17-game season with almost 1,400 yards. Let the big dog eat.
Yeah, I mean, 1,400 yards, though, that's not what Derrick Henry's been giving you. Derrick Henry's been giving you 1,700 yards and 2,000 yards. And so, you know, can you win? Last year you were 11-5 with 2,000 yards. Can you win this year if you've got 1,400 yards?
And I think that's the tough line the Titans are going to have to walk because, of course, you want to be able to maintain Derrick Henry, not just for this year for a 17-game season, but hopefully for a couple more years. And he's getting up there in terms of running back age. But you don't want to maintain him so much that you're underutilizing him. Because, you know, if he rushes for 14 versus 2,000 yards, that's not going to save 4 or 5 years of Derrick Henry, of fresh Derrick Henry on your team. So it's kind of a dangerous game that you're playing there because you want to get out of what you can from him in his prime.
Yeah, you can't.
But you don't want to beat him up.
You can't save
and run
money.
the ball 35, 38 times a game.
You can't save money if you have to pay your mortgage.
Yes.
And that's where they are right here with Derrick Henry. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your Titans thoughts later on the show. Caroline's is coming up next. Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey goes down so smooth. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday. You all know that I absolutely love ice cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey because it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to ignite the night than to do it with Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I always tell people, hey, you have got to enjoy Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. And now that the start of football season is here, you've got tailgates, you've got parties, you've got Fireball. You got to go get it. Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It'll be the hit at every party you have. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to check out Nashville's best deals. Save cash with the purchase of a $10 gift card for Retro Snow for only $5. Nashville's original shaved ice truck, bringing back snowballs with creativity and pure cane sugar, dreaming up new flavor combinations and adding fresh, delicious toppings is what makes Retro Snow Nashville's original shaved ice truck. Go visit their first ever permanent location in the nations at 806 51st Avenue North, open right now from 4 to 7 on Fridays and Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 7. Check out Retro Snow's truck schedule at retrosnowtruck.com. Get your deals now while they last at theGameNashville.com/deals. It is time now for a college football edition of Carolines.
Get in on the action. Put the money on the mahogany. What's on tap on the sports books? It's time to break it all down with Carolines. Here on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Carolines is brought to you by BetUS. It's my favorite sportsbook, and it has been America's favorite sportsbook for over 25 years. You can sign up at BetUS.com, mention game, and get up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. So first, tonight, we have Kansas, Coastal Carolina.
Ugh.
I am taking the
Coastal
Chants
Carolina.
minus 26.5, which that spreads
26.5.
Well, the money line is minus 4,500.
A Power 5 school is a dog by 26 points to Coastal Carolina. And not that I'm not surprised by it.
Because
totally,
Kansas is absolute garbage.
But can you realize how much of a dumpster fire you are in that regard? Like Vanderbilt. I mean, then again, Vanderbilt lost by 20 to ETSU.
Yeah.
But like Vanderbilt wouldn't be a 20-point dog, I don't think, to Coastal Carolina. 26-point dog to Coastal Carolina.
I don't know.
Remember, Vanderbilt chose not to hire the Coastal Carolina coach.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, I'm taking that spread not only just because of the money line, but I do think that Coastal Carolina will not call the dogs off at any point in time. And that's kind of the tricky part about picking these games with such a massive spread, is when do they call the dogs off. But I think Coastal Carolina, if they want any sort of whisper in any sort of college football playoff conversation, it's going to have to be by big time wins. So I'm going to take Coastal Carolina minus 26.5 because they just rushed in their first game for 262 yards. Kansas's defense gave up 262 yards in their first game.
Is Kansas ever going to be good ever again at football?
Not anytime soon. I'm not counting it out ever.
I don't even know who their coach
anytime
is.
soon.
Who's their coach?
I don't know.
I mean, that, because didn't
not
Les got
Les
fired.
Miles anymore.
Yeah, Les got fired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Kansas is a mess. I'll take Coastal Carolina as well.
Lance
I'll take
Leopold?
yeah, the Buffalo coach. Remember, he was part of the Vanderbilt. You know, would he be a fit for No, he was part. What's his name? Danny White hired him at Wisconsin Whitewater or at Buffalo or something like that.
Yeah, he's been in Buffalo.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's been in Buffalo.
All right, what's next?
Ohio State, Oregon.
This is a big one.
This is a tricky one. The spread here is 14.5. It's kind of a tricky one. The money line, if you take my Ohio State and the money line, it's minus 750. Game is in Columbus. So I am actually going to take.
This is big news.
This is big news.
Saturday.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Ohio State minus 14.5. Oregon struggled against Fresno. And even though Ohio State didn't look like classic 2020 college football playoff national championship caliber Ohio State that they did in 2020, I think that team only has an upside, especially with a first-year quarterback. They have one big game under their belt against Minnesota. So I think that Ohio State has a much higher upside here. And Oregon struggled against Fresno State. I mean, won narrowly, 31-24.
I cannot tell you how much I am rooting for Oregon in this game.
Why? Because you just hate Ohio State?
I hate Ohio State. And I don't, like...
I think Ohio State's one of those things that, like, if you're part of the fan base, you
God.
love it. It's
every single person I know that likes Ohio State. Like, my buddy Kevin Jackson loves Ohio State. Kayla Anderson, News 2, loves Ohio State.
Did they even go to Ohio State?
I think Kevin went to Ohio State.
Okay.
I don't know where Kayla went. I think she went to, like, Washington State.
I think she did.
But, like, I think she's from Columbus or she worked in Columbus. Just loves Ohio State. If you...
It's so annoying.
Like Ohio State, it's like that is your life calling. To your point, I think everybody else, it's like the Cowboys. If you don't like the Cowboys, you hate the
them.
Cowboys. Like,
but if you like them, you love them.
Oh my God, we were at the Blake Shelton concert last night. This guy sitting by us was like, "Oh my God, I got to know the score of the Cowboy game. Like, I can't believe my wife told me I didn't have to come because I want to watch a game, but I decided to be with my wife." I'm going to take Ohio State. I mean, I think that Ohio State, like, they worked the kinks out last week.
Mm-hmm.
And this game being in Columbus, that's a long flight from Oregon. I've never been a big Pac-12 guy, so I'm going to take Ohio State here because I do think Ohio State is a playoff team. And while I am rooting like hell to be wrong, I'm going to take Ohio State, but I'll take them on the money line just because last time that I took them, when I took the minus, 21 or whatever, and it kind of did me in. So if that defense is still squeaky, then I'll, feel better about it.
But you've got Chris Olave on your side.
I do have Chris
Olave. I think one of the best wide receivers in college football, if not the best. But a little Southeastern Carolines preview pick today. Southeastern Carolines live at 10 a.m. on Saturday with all of your SEC picks for the day. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. It'll be live at 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. Pitt, Tennessee. The Johnny Majors Classic. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. -3, -115.
Why?
I think the Vols had just the tiniest little sliver of hope in the first quarter. And then it was just a dumpster fire after that. And you need to beat Bowling Green by more than what they beat them by. And of course it was a spanking, but you need to beat them by more than that for me to be convinced that this program can't be turned around. And I don't think that Joe Milton is the guy. I think that Joe Milton is too shaky of a team.
So I'm going to take Pittsburgh too. And I'm torn on this. Part of me thinks the ACC was so lousy in week 1 that, Pittsburgh's an average ACC team. Tennessee's a below average SEC team.
Mm-hmm.
The below average SEC team should beat the average ACC team.
Should.
But did you hear Pat Narduzzi on Robbie and Retro today, the Pittsburgh head coach?
I didn't know.
Oh my goodness. He was just like, this is how I felt like if you're watching the stream, we're here in one of the broadcast booths at First Horizon Park. This is how I felt like Pat Narduzzi did it. Feet up on the desk, phone, just, "Hey, Joe, how you doing, buddy?"
Yeah, I'm not there.
Yeah, literally just like he and Rexroad played such grab ass at the end. When they were talking about, "Oh, is your wife coming to the game? I hope to see your wife." "Oh, yeah, Joe. She doesn't like coming because, she doesn't like seeing the games. She gets nervous. But, yeah, maybe she should go shopping." Ha, ha, ha. And I'm like,
good shopping in Knoxville.
So when I heard that grab assery between Joe Rexroad and Pat Narduzzi, the Pittsburgh coach, I said that Pittsburgh's going to win. Because he's just like,
I'm not there. I'm not at the point where I'm like, Pittsburgh easily. I think very much so Tennessee can find a way to win this game. But from what I saw in week 1, it doesn't make me feel confident about it.
I'm going
to take Pittsburgh -3.
As I said, the utter grab rear-endery from Joe Rexroad today with Pat Narduzzi. Now, I know
just catching up. There's a football game, whatever.
The first time I ever told Joe, I ever talked to Joe was when he was the beat writer at Michigan State, and I was in Louisville, and Pat Narduzzi was a candidate for the Louisville job. And after talking to Joe, I thought that he was Nick Saban. Like, that was the way Joe talked about it.
Just stroking the ego of anything Michigan State related.
Those are Carolines.
And Carolines is brought to you by BetUS. It's my favorite sportsbook, and it's been America's favorite sportsbook for over 25 years. You can sign up at BetUS.com and mention GAME to get up to 200% bonuses on your first deposit.
Chad Withrow joins us next from Outkick. His thoughts, Tennessee. And this is my real question. I'm going to watch a game tomorrow. I'm excited. Pittsburgh, Tennessee.
It's a good matchup.
Pat Narduzzi may think that he's got to, but, there is something to this. But I do wonder, is this just a fun game for right now? Or is this really going to tell us something about Heupel, Milton, and the program and the season? We'll do that next with Chad Withrow from Outkick joining us here on the program. We are live at First Horizon Park. Once again, sounds tonight. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I absolutely love my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. There is no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month with Hiller. And Hiller loves college football. They're proud supporters of the Tennessee Volunteers and proud supporters of the Vanderbilt Commodores, as well as proud supporters of the Predators. You see that logo right there on the ice. Hiller is offering you credits for your old home systems. Trade in your old HVAC unit and earn up to $1,500 in credits towards a select new system. Upgrade from a standard water heater to a tankless water heater and earn up to $500 with your trade-in. Trade up to a new electrical panel and earn up to $500 in credits for your old one. Their work is backed by the happy you'll be or the services free guarantee. Their technicians are continuing to take measures to keep you and your family safe and healthy on every single call. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are live at First Horizon Park, the Sounds tonight, against the Memphis Redbirds, who have decided to just start throwing a football all around the baseball field today.
That's how they do it in the 901.
That is apparently how they do it in the 901, and apparently we've offended most of Memphis today, so we'll just, whatever. But the other side of the state, big football game, Tennessee and Pittsburgh, and as we just made our picks in Carolines, I picked Pittsburgh to win tomorrow simply because Pat Narduzzi seemed way too relaxed this morning on Robbie and Rex Road. I mean, and I forgot about this. It was actually a good interview. He took a zinger at Saban, said Saban can't even learn his defense. He's tried, but he's too nervous to run the Pat Narduzzi defense. And, Joe was just feeding right into it because they were just playing grab ass with that. But Chad Withrow joins us now from Outkick 360 here on the program. So I'm going to ask you this question, Chad. Tomorrow's game against Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh is an average ACC team. I think Tennessee's probably a below-average SEC team, and I think the SEC is a lot better than the ACC. But I wonder, how big is tomorrow's game for the whole season for Vol football this year?
Jared, first, when will you tweet that the route is on? 3-0 or 7-0 tomorrow when Tennessee plays Pittsburgh? At what point?
Oh, so yesterday, I never doubted the Buccaneers for a second last night. I say that facetiously. Yeah, no, I was worried. When I saw Tampa Bay score, I'm like, this game is over. The route is on. Here come the Buccaneers. They're going to pile it on. I can enjoy the Blake Shelton concert and not worry about it. And then I'm holding my rear end at the end because I knew that Twitter was going to explode if Dallas hung on to win. So you did get me on that one, yes.
Yeah, so you were at the Blake Shelton concert. Now I know why that tweet was set, because that was awful. But no, a great game last night. Look, let me ask you this, though, Jared. Pittsburgh versus Louisville. Who's the better team right now?
Oh, definitely Pittsburgh.
Before I answer, okay. Because I have a hard time picking this game because I have a hard time wrapping my head around just how good is Pittsburgh. I feel like I know that Tennessee is not a very good SEC team, but they also have enough talent. If you look at all those recruiting rankings and everything else, Tennessee still has enough leftover talent to be competitive with good teams. So my biggest question about this game is just how good is Pittsburgh? Because I think good teams will beat Tennessee relatively easily this year. The great teams are going to destroy them. And I think Tennessee will fare pretty well against the below average to bad teams. So it's hard to know just how good Pittsburgh is. And it's hard to know because, a reason that I hear you talk about a lot on your show is comparing conference to conference. How good is a middle-of-the-pack ACC team versus a below-average SEC team like you laid out? And sure. I honestly don't know the answer to that. So I kind of default to pick the experienced quarterback. Now, I'm taking Pittsburgh in this game because they've got a sixth-year quarterback who's probably going to be a late-round NFL draft pick that I think's got an advantage against Joe Milton, who, looked okay at times in the first game, but also just looked like a guy that didn't really know where to throw it at times. And to me, that's the most concerning thing.
Well, I was talking with some people after the game last week, and the things that Milton missed, the throws that he missed, the reads that he missed, guys open that he missed. And I wonder this. Did the offense, though, give some hope? Did you look at the offense and say, hey, the guys were there? Now, look, Bowling Green was not very good. But, did the offense give any hope that Josh Heupel might have, a secret formula that could work in the SEC? We know it's going to work with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. But was there any encouraging sign from that angle last week?
I think the offense is almost annoyingly simple to watch, especially against Bowling Green. So a question I would have moving forward is how much more complicated can it get? What Josh Heupel wants to do is pretty simple, and it's all a big setup. Well, the problem with the setup is if the first thing you're doing isn't working to some extent, the setup doesn't work. I'll give you an example. To start that game when Tennessee got a 14-0 lead, they ran 3 straight hitch routes to the left side, and they were completing each pass every time. They set that up where it was a hitch and go, and Bowling Green could do nothing but tackle the receiver and get a pass interference call. That is what Josh Heupel's offense relies on, having a little bit of success that eventually leads to a big success because you're setting up the defense the whole time. I don't think Tennessee tried to do much in that game, and I really think when they had the drops combined with Joe Milton not being very good, they just went as dumbed down as possible in the second half and handed off every time because they knew they could easily run away from Bowling Green just running the football. They're not going to be able to do that many more times this year. I was encouraged by the running game part of the offense, but I think the biggest discouraging part of the whole game for Tennessee isn't the overthrows from Milton. It's not the 2 drops from Jalen Hyatt. It's the fact that multiple times Joe Milton missed wide open receivers by not throwing them the football. And I don't know if that was his mentality going into the game, not looking to the middle of the field because he doesn't want to make a mistake or because he was taught to look outside first. I don't know. But if they're going to beat Pittsburgh, he's going to have to work the middle of the field in this game. He's going to have to be confident throwing it there, and he's going to have to see the field. And what I saw in game 1 was a quarterback with every possible physical attribute that does not see the field well. And I hate to say this for Tennessee fans listening, but that sounds an awful lot like their last quarterback, who everyone said could make every single throw known to man, but the guy could not play in games and could not see the field. I'm not ready to go there yet with Joe Milton because I do think that the game plan was so vanilla, but I need to see a lot more against Pitt.
Caroline, wasn't it you that said that you thought you were watching Jarrett Garantano play?
I thought that with Adrian Martinez and because Adrian Martinez, I was like, he even looks like Jarek Guarantano, but he throws exactly like JG.
Well, and think about this, Caroline. What do Adrian Martinez and Jarek Guarantano have in common?
They both committed to Tennessee.
Yes, they're both. I mean, look, Tennessee. That orange doesn't work for everyone. Many would say that no one looks good in orange, but for whatever reason, when it comes to quarterbacks that have a big arm that don't see the field well, they seem to be very attracted to that orange. And I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully Joe Milton is not the next one of those quarterbacks.
Chad Withrow with us. Who do you place blame on from Vanderbilt for the fact that in the last 2 years they have a 50-point swing with East Tennessee State? They beat them by 30 in 2019. They lose by 20. I can't blame Clark Lee. I think Clark Lee's a smart guy. I think he's a good coach. Is he good enough to win at Vanderbilt? I don't know, because it's hard to win at Vanderbilt. But, that's embarrassing what happened on Saturday to Vandy.
Look, that's first and foremost, it is a Clark Lee problem. Now, he inherited a big problem that has nothing to do with him. Vanderbilt lost when he was a player there, and they've been losing for the most part for every year except when James Franklin was there since he left. So that's an issue he's got to try to correct. That's no fault of his own. But that first game falls on him because they were not ready to play. They overlooked ETSU, and I know you can blame the players for that. And the coaches don't play the games, but that's a head coach problem. I'm with you, Jared, that I really like Clark Lee. I've met him. I think he's a smart guy. I think he has the right ideas about how to run a program. But I cannot shake this image from my head with Clark Lee when he talks, and I read this athletic piece on him about practicing the warm-up 90 times or however many times it was, and practicing singing the alma mater and practicing shaking hands and everything else. And the comparison I keep coming up with is Derek Dooley at Tennessee. Derek Dooley was so fixated on things that really did not matter that it affected his job as the head coach. I vividly remember there was one of these SEC inside shows or something at halftime of a Tennessee-Buffalo game. Khalil Mack was on this Buffalo team, and Tennessee ended up winning easily, but it was close in the first half. But I remember halftime, they had Derek Dooley in a hard hat with blueprints on his desk while the team was practicing. And he was talking about the facilities and where he wanted his desk and where he wanted the workout area and everything else. And I'm thinking, that's when I realized, this guy just doesn't know what he needs to focus on. He's micromanaging every facet of the program and not focusing on what matters. And every time I read about Clark Lee, I fear that he's doing the exact same things.
So I would agree with that because the Dooley stuff, he went in, somebody told me that Dooley would go into his office and measure his desk drawers to know how much space he had. But what bothered me so much about where I give Clark Lee a little bit of grace is those practicing the anthem, that's like a Corbin thing. And it sounds to me like he went to Tim Corbin and said, hey, kind of give me some tips on how to win at Vanderbilt. And Tim Corbin says, oh yeah, we practice everything at Vanderbilt. So when you see that, I look at that okay, he's trying to follow the lead of Tim Corbin. I would agree that when you're winning the national championship game and you practice the national anthem, you're just a really well-detailed machine of an operation. When you practice the anthem and you lose by 20 to ETSU, you're wasting your time.
I think when you start, if I'm going to start baseline out as a coach of a program, okay, you don't start with warm-ups and singing the alma mater and how we stand during the national anthem and everything else. I've heard this, and I've heard this about Corbin and other people, and that's great. It's worked for Tim Corbin. Basketball coaches who start with how to lace your sneakers. That's the first thing you do in practice, things like that. The first thing you have to do is play hard. You have to play with a certain intensity, and that has to be the baseline. I did not see that for Vanderbilt. They looked like a group that was focused on way too much in that game against ETSU. At times, you have to dumb things down. We interviewed Joe Milton a week ago, and I thought he had a really good quote. It was after the Bowling Green game. And I asked him something about, did Bowling Green do something different you weren't expecting? And he said, when you get fancy, we get dumb. And basically what he's saying was, the crazier you're going to get, the simpler it's going to get for us. I think things need to be simply put for Vanderbilt right now. I'm not as concerned about warm-up technique or how they sing the alma mater or how they address each other in the lunchroom. I'm more concerned with going out and playing with passion because let's face it, if they play hard and play remotely smart, they're not losing to ETSU by 20 points. Maybe they lose by a field goal. Maybe Vandy is just that bad. Maybe they still get beat. Maybe they win by a touchdown or win by 3, but it doesn't look that bad.
I need you, Chad Withrow, with us. I need you to help me solve a debate. And when I say solve a debate, I almost mean kind of help Caroline understand something. And that is the Vanderbilt United Fund has been launched. They say they're going to raise $300 million for facility upgrades at Vanderbilt. Now, what was the standard you said that it would set Vanderbilt up for success?
That was the question.
Okay. So I am very skeptical of Vanderbilt. For me with Vanderbilt, if you don't put a shovel in the ground, then I don't want to hear from you. Because I've heard all kinds of things over the years about improving the football stadium or getting better facilities or whatever. And yet we got in this big argument that she thinks, well, lay your argument out.
So you say that $300 million isn't going to do it. It's not going to bridge the gap between Vanderbilt and Florida and Georgia and the other powerhouses in the East. So it doesn't really matter. So it doesn't even matter. And to what I said, and my point to that was $300 million, yeah, it's not going to build you an entirely new football stadium, but that's not a few pennies to throw around. Vanderbilt is so far behind. So the longer and longer that you wait for upgrades to facilities, it's only going to set you back even more. So even though $300 million isn't going to cover everything that Vanderbilt has to do, it's a start.
So first off, Jared's asked me to mansplain something to Caroline. I'm not going to do that
I appreciate
on the
that.
show. I don't want to get myself in trouble on that.
Yeah.
But Jared, I'll ask you this question. If your argument is that success at Vandy is competing with Florida, Georgia, Alabama, or the top of the SEC East, I think you got the wrong target.
That's what I said. Thank you, Chad.
I hate to sound so defeatist with Vanderbilt, but I mean, 6-6 is a success. I think everyone associated with that program, they may not want to admit it, but to me, that is very successful at Vanderbilt football. And if you can, here's where I think Vanderbilt's goal should be. And I don't think you take a job and say, we're never going to win a title here. Don't even discuss it. Let's not talk about it. Let's not think about it. We're never going to be Florida, Georgia. And let's face it, we will never be Tennessee when Tennessee's got it figured out also. But if you're Vanderbilt, you go in and you say, can we compete with South Carolina? Absolutely. Can we compete with Kentucky in recruiting? Absolutely. Can we compete with Missouri? Absolutely. If you get to that level where you're recruiting, even if it's out recruiting Northwestern and Stanford and Wake Forest to get guys that can compete with those teams and can, compete or beat bad Tennessee teams, that's a win. I mean, you're right, Jared, in that there is no amount of money that you could spend that would make them Georgia. You could go spend $2 billion, and I don't think you're going to create a perennial SEC champion or a team that's going to compete every year in the SEC in football at Vanderbilt with that much money. But $300 million, and this is where I will agree with you some, Jared, when they put shovels in the ground and I start seeing $300 million spent and not just a damn soda fountain at a season opener, once I start seeing actual facilities built, then, yeah, I mean, that's going to help you compete with some of those teams closer to the bottom of the SEC and maybe past them. But if you can get to where you're 6-6 and 8-4 in a good year at Vanderbilt, that's a huge win. And I do think that $300 million can help you get there. It's never going to get you to Georgia, Florida, Bama status, but it can get you above the rest of the teams in the SEC East.
So I said to Caroline, I think success at Vanderbilt is defined as 6-6 in a bowl game once every 3 years. Like, I think that is, if you've got a coach who can get you 6-6 once every 3 years and get you to a bowl game, that's successful for Vanderbilt. And I say that, but sometimes I think people are like, well, I think that Vanderbilt can win more. I think that is success at Vanderbilt. Chad, when I was born, Vanderbilt didn't make a bowl game until I was in college. Like, people forget how far even with Franklin, yes, and even like Derek Mason made a couple of bowl games, which was not the norm at Vanderbilt.
Well, look, I was born in 1982, not to date myself, but I just did. And about 9 months after I was born, Vanderbilt beat Tennessee in football. So I was 9 months old. Vanderbilt did not beat Tennessee in football again until I was living in my own house in 12 South as a 23-year-old. So that puts into perspective Tennessee versus Vanderbilt in my lifetime up until that point. Look, $300 million to your definition of success, Jared, which is 6-6 every 3 years. $300 million could get you there easily. $300 million coupled with competent coaching is going to get you to that easily. And if you're playing 4 non-conference games, I think that's going to change soon, and it's going to be harder to get to 6-6 because it's going to be 9 conference games. But when you can schedule properly in the non-conference, getting to 6-6 is not as difficult as it once was. I believe, and maybe I'm being overly optimistic about Vanderbilt, I think you can get it to where 6-6 is the floor. I think you can get a consistent 6-6 pretty much every year and strive for 8-4. Kind of the Mississippi State approach with Dan Mullen, right? They would go 5-7 or 6-6, 2 or 3 years, then they'd go 10-2. They'd go 9-3. They'd have that special season 1 out of every 3 or 4 years. Vanderbilt can get there. If Mississippi State can do it, Vanderbilt and Nashville, Tennessee can do it too.
Chad Withrow with us from Outkick. I do want to get Chad's thoughts on the Titans, so we'll do that coming up next as Titans take on Arizona. And I honestly need Chad's help to tell me if I'm being too much of a homer when it comes to the game on Sunday. So we'll do that coming up next here on Stillman and Company. Again, we are live at First Horizon Park. Still tickets available for the Sounds tonight against the Memphis Redbirds. Let me tell you about the FanDuel Sportsbook app. That is my official sportsbook app. Week 1 is here, and the fridge is stocked. The recliner is ready, and now all you need to do is log on to the FanDuel Sportsbook app and claim your risk-free bet. That's right. FanDuel is giving all customers a risk-free bet just in time for Week 1 of the NFL season. So you can put all your money on Seattle, which is what I would tell you to do against Indianapolis, and just put all the money on Seattle, and if you lose, you'll get your risk-free bet. Use FanDuel Sportsbook on any Week 1 game. Bet the money line, the over, throw some money on a prop bet or a same-game parlay. There are so many ways to play. If you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with promo code JGM to also receive a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code JGM. Must be 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company, we are live at First Horizon Park, where the Sounds are taking on the Memphis Redbirds today. Chad Withrow with us from Outkick 360. So the one thing that I appreciate about our radio show is that, you know, like if we think the Titans do something stupid or we think the Titans suck, we'll say that we think the Titans suck, and we don't feel the need to pat the Titans on the butt all the time. Sometimes I'm not sure that that is the way that every other radio show or radio station in Nashville feels. Sometimes they just like to pat the Titans on the butt. But week 1 against Arizona, Chad, I don't know a lot about Arizona. I mean, I know what everybody else knows. I know J.J. Watt. I know Kyler Murray. I know, and yet I look at this Titans team, and I was saying before the season, I think they could be 13-4. I said yesterday, I think that, you know, fans should be allowed to look at the Titans as a Super Bowl contender this year. Now, are they really going to beat Kansas City? I would say no, but you never know. It's early in the season. I think you could make the argument if you're a fan, whatever. And then today I'm like, you know, I think this year with all these weapons on offense, if Ryan Tannehill, if everybody's so afraid of Derrick Henry, he could go out there and be the breakout quarterback this year. And all of a sudden I'm starting to ask myself if I'm too much of a Titans homer. So I'll turn this to you and I will ask it this way. What should be the Titan fan level of optimism going into the season on Sunday?
I mean, it should be Super Bowl or bust. I mean, I don't know what else this team that's what they haven't accomplished. I mean, they've been to an AFC championship game. They should be improved. I don't think you're being a homer at all. I mean, that should be the expectation. Look, they're one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the AFC, and they've got as good a shot as anyone of winning the conference. So I think getting to the Super Bowl and giving yourself a chance to win it should absolutely be the expectation. Now, I will say, talking about this game specifically and about this team, I don't know that I've seen enough with the additions they've made and the health of some of those additions mixed with a first-round pick that is just not ready to play football yet, which I don't fully understand, and Caleb Farley, and your second-round pick in Dylan Radins, who you drafted to be a right tackle, is currently a backup guard. I don't know that I've seen enough in terms of acquisition to be really confident, especially in this game, about what the Titans can do with third down defense against a Cardinals offense that's very talented. So, look, I think the Titans are going to be good. I think they're going to have a chance to contend for a Super Bowl. I'm not optimistic about Sunday.
Really? Like, I'm not a Kyler Murray believer. Caroline, do you believe in Kyler Murray?
Not really, no.
Like, I'm not a
Kyler Murray believer. I'm also not a believer. My lack of belief in the Titans defense outweighs my lack of belief in Kyler Murray and my full belief in DeAndre Hopkins and the weapons, especially DeAndre Hopkins and his history against the Tennessee Titans. I fully expect him to have a huge day against this Titans defense. That's what gives me pause.
If you were Vance Joseph, the Arizona defensive coordinator, what would you do? Would you stack the box to try to stop Derrick Henry? Or would you be worried about those? I mean, they have like average to below average corners, and Malcolm Butler retired. And would you be more worried about Julio and AJ or more worried about Derrick Henry?
I think you always have to start Henry and go out with a game plan for the Titans. So I think Vance Joseph has to worry first and foremost about Derrick Henry. But Derrick Henry's also traditionally a slow starter. You know, he averaged a little over 3 yards a carry for the month of September a year ago. And we were asking questions about Derrick Henry. He's a guy, just like he does in individual games, gets better as it gets going. He's a better second-half runner than he is first half. He's better as the year gets going, especially didn't have a single carry in preseason. So, you know, maybe he gets off to a slow start also, which gives me more pause about this game with Arizona because Derrick Henry's a slow starter. But I think your game plan has to be try to stop Henry first, then worry about the other weapons for the Titans. But look, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be shutting the Titans down in this game either. I just think that it's a shootout. I think it's a shootout that the Cardinals win. But I think this is a game that's going to take the over. There's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Do you think Indianapolis is a legitimate threat to the Titans this year?
Jared, I've heard you talk about this a little bit with Indianapolis. I don't know that they're a legitimate threat, but I do believe that – and didn't you pick the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl?
I did, shockingly.
Yeah, so I do believe that Monday morning the narrative is going to be that the AFC South is up for grabs between the Titans and the Colts, because I think the Colts get it done against Seattle on Sunday, and I think the Titans slip up and lose to Arizona. And I think that's going to be the narrative. Now, I also fully believe the Titans will win the division and that they're the better team and they'll outlast Indianapolis. But I do think that's going to be an early storyline. I'm shocked that Carson Wentz is playing. I mean, the initial report of that injury, we were talking about them going to an Alabama high school to pull Phillip Rivers out of retirement. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly he's starting in week 1. So that shocks me. I do think that Indianapolis, I think they're going to be a little bit better than people think. But I still think the Titans win the division.
Last thing for you. Do you think on Monday, let's say the game goes as planned, Titans win, whatever. Do you think we will hear just droves of complaints from fans going to the game at Nissan Stadium? Because, Caroline went to the preseason game against the Bears, and this to me dates all the way back to when I was on the air in Louisville in 2014. There was a Monday night game against the Steelers I went to, and I stood in line to get into the stadium until the first quarter was over. So I'm looking at this right now, and I'm like, at which point will the Titans say, okay, we've got to get this figured out? I'm on Instagram swapping through stories, and I've saw 2 different sponsored ads that were offering me $15 an hour to go work at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. I'm kind of nervous about what the fan experience is going to be like.
It's going to be a total disaster at the game. And this is totally on the Titans. I do not understand the level of Stockholm syndrome it takes for Titans fans to give the Titans a pass on any of this. I know they have some new people in place, but when you've had multiple people in place to fix a problem that's lasted 15 to 20 years, that is an organizational problem. And they have not overcome it. I don't understand it. I know that everywhere is having a hard time finding workers right now. But how is it that I can go to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I can go through I don't think they have as many gates as they do at Nissan Stadium, and there's 85,000 people there, and I timed it. It took us 4 minutes from the back of the line to get through right before kickoff and walk right into the stadium. I don't understand how the Titans and Nissan Stadium cannot figure this out. And the biggest problem with this are Titans fans who defend the Titans on this. They have to fix it. There are no excuses. You have the money to pay more if that's what it takes. Get more people there. Do whatever it takes. Stop feeding excuses. I like that they apologized for it. They should have. But I don't want any excuses with it. And I also don't want Titans fans not addressing the problem and talking about how bad it is. This is not a problem everywhere. Somehow other stadiums across the country figure it out and get people through the gates on time. The Titans have to figure this out.
No, 3 years ago they played the Patriots, and I told my friends who are Patriot fans when we went to the game, and I said, this is going to be the worst gate entrance experience you have in your entire life. I was trying to set the expectations low, and I think the end result was worse than the expectations that I had set. And
well,
so,
Jared,
go ahead.
If you want, sorry to cut you off. If you want to load up the lines on your show on Monday, just throw out the question: how bad was your Titan Stadium experience? Now, if they lose, you're going to get a lot more calls too. But lines will be loaded. At a previous radio station I worked at, we had this topic one time, and I was told, because the Titans told the station, hey, the topic was fine, it was fair, but you spent one segment too many on it. You spent too long. And I'm thinking, that's because we had people tweeting and calling us for hours with horror stories about their stadium experience. I think this was after the Titans-Eagles game, where there were probably 60% Eagles fans in the house for that game coming off the Super Bowl. It's a problem. I'm willing to cut the new guy a little bit of slack on it. And it was preseason. But again, also, it was preseason. There weren't many people there. You need to figure it out for week 1.
Chad Withrow, Outkick 360. Chad, appreciate you as always. We'll talk next week.
This is fun, Jared, Caroline. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
See you, Chad. So are you excited for your week 2 experience?
I am excited. I'm excited to go to the game. I'm not excited to wait in line. But I'm excited to go to the game and be part of the game. My first regular season Titans game.
So I thought about this. And I'm not dogging on the Titans right now. You know what I mean? By looking at I'm not down on the Titans. I'm not dogging the Titans. I'm not anything of the Titans. I am challenging the Titans to get it right for Sunday. Like, I am going to be doing the pregame show at Rock Bottom, downtown, and then as soon as the pregame show is over at 11:30, I'm going to walk across the bridge, and by the time I get to the gate to walk into the stadium, it should probably be around 12-ish.
I would say 15 minutes. Same thing, pretty much.
I should be able to be in my seat by 12:18. So
that's fair.
If I leave downtown at 11:30, walk across the bridge, I should be in my seat by 12:18.
And I think that's even generous. I think that's
so you don't
a
think
fair amount
that's
of
a
time.
fair challenge? You think it's not enough? Like I should say 12:15.
Well, I mean, 12:15, 12:18, yes, around that time, yes. I think that is very fair.
And it should take less time for me to get there because I no longer can get my little circular Papa John's pizza that they used to always have at the stadium.
Enough with the Papa John's pizza. It was probably so bad.
Bad for you? Yes. Bad? Absolutely. Those little circular Papa John's pizzas at the Titan Stadium, those to me were always the best.
Well, I'm sorry you won't get that experience. I hope that the Slim and Huskies experience is everything that you could have ever dreamed of.
I'm thinking about giving it a try.
I think that's only fair.
I'm thinking about giving it a try.
What if it's not circular?
Coming up next, I asked Julio Jones a question today, and everybody laughed. But I think there is something important that we should take away from it on Sunday. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hey, don't miss the pregame show live from Rock Bottom Brewery downtown this Sunday. The pregame show will feature yours truly, Mark Howard, and former Titans receiver Chris Sanders from 9:30 to 11:30, again at Rock Bottom on Broadway. The pregame show is brought to you by TriStar Moving, Parman Tractor and Equipment, FreedomTireGuys.com, FanDuel, E2 Roofing, Hillside Medical, Social Furniture, and Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey.
mentioned a little earlier about Julio and trusting him to get ready. Do you anticipate him being able to handle a full workload Sunday?
I think that we'll see where that is. I'm not ready to, commit to that, but until, I find out otherwise, I would imagine that, it would be. And, there's a lot of different, roles that guys play on the game and in the game plan. So, we'll see where everybody is on Sunday and how they function within that game plan.
There you go. That was Vrabel, and he ain't going to say nothing. So there's Vrabel, and I like Vrabel. You like Vrabel. Mm-hmm. We all like Vrabel. Vrabel can be kind of a chotch sometimes, but is a, that's
aren't we all chotches sometimes?
Kind of, yeah, honestly.
In our own way.
Especially led by me.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah.
So, Julio Jones. And as I said last week, my sources in Atlanta said, Julio didn't always want to play. Third downs, 2-minute drills. I'm good. Gadget play designed for Julio runs off the field. And so I asked Julio today, because he hasn't practiced, are you in shape for all the big moments, the third downs, the 2-minute drills? Here's what Julio said.
The entire game in the heat with important snaps, third downs, 2-minute drills when you're needed on the field.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
What's telling you?
Julio and everybody with a little chuckle. Yeah, I'm good to go. Okay.
You said it.
Stay on the field. Look, if Julio, this is what's tough, is the Titans have invested so much into Julio that if, for example, he were to act up, it probably wouldn't leak out right away, because what have we always said about why things leak?
When you want them to be leaked.
And so if you're having a problem with Julio, but you're committed to him for next year and the year after that, you're not just going to let that leak out. But, I do think the one thing I do feel, and maybe this is that optimism or hope, is that Julio will not, he doesn't feel disrespected. I think he felt disrespected in Atlanta, and that he won't feel disrespected here, or doesn't feel disrespected here, and that there is an understanding between him and Vrabel and everybody else that he is going to, that he's going to meet his end of the bargain here in Tennessee. And that the Titans are about him, and they've invested in him, and they respect him, and they treat him, and whatever. But that they have, Julio, here's your end of the bargain. And I believe that Julio is willing to do it, even if things don't go well. I think Julio knows, okay, I can't pitch a fit if things don't go my way. But that's kind of me optimistically speaking. There is still a skeptical side here. But he said, I'll be ready. So 2-minute drill, number 2 should be on the field. Third down and 8, number 2, get on the field.
And to your point, whenever we had a lot of texters texting in when you initially shared what you had heard about Julio in Atlanta, a lot of the texters or callers or on social media or whatever said, well, that was in Atlanta. That was Julio in Atlanta, but he's in Tennessee now. It'll be different. He's with a new team. He needed a fresh start. And my initial thought was, yeah, right. He is not just a victim of the circumstance. Maybe that's actually who he is, and it's not just where he was. It's not going to change in Tennessee. But the more and more I learn about Julio, I think maybe that could actually be the case. Maybe he's not a bad guy. He was just in a bad situation, and he was willing to do bad things.
So I'm just reading this text from Ben in the text line. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. He says, Joe is beating Jared in correct takes by 31 since I started tracking it. 90 to 59 incorrect takes is a bigger deficit because Jared throws more wild takes out there. Jared has 88 and Joe has only 54 incorrect takes. Difference of 34 also in Joe's favor. Step it up if you want to win the radio award, Jared. Between the two of you, there is 64 takes pending that we will tally up in the next year or so when we have the answers.
Who is we? Who's tallying up these answers?
Robbie and Ryan Porth were impressed with my data a few months ago, and we're not surprised that Joe did not have, and we're surprised that Joe did not have a bigger lead. Joe thought it was creepy, but appreciates me tracking it. I need to see the takes.
And also, what makes a take correct and incorrect?
That's my point.
I think that you can, if you have an absolutely ridiculous nonsense take and you have enough evidence to back it up, you can convince anyone that it's right or wrong. So, and what's the radio award? Is this Ben's radio award for best takes of the year?
Well, in all fairness, I did give Joe the nickname Bad Take Joe when he was at the Tennessean. And that nickname still holds. But, like, at the end of the day, this is just me. At the end of the day, I feel like, yes, I probably put myself out there more.
You do have some nonsense takes.
And I'm not going to be right all the time. But I am more right than Joe because I'm willing to go there.
Oh, absolutely not. We are not applying this logic to your takes if you don't let me apply my logic in Caroline's.
About willing to go there?
Yeah, because I'm willing to take a risk with the spread and you don't apply it. So if it doesn't benefit you, you're not willing to take the risk.
You see, last night, I thought Caroline was on my team. Today, I'm not so sold.
We don't play sides here.
I'm just saying.
Every man and woman for him and herself.
I'm just saying.
Don't get too comfortable, Jared.
615-737-1025. Six-pack picks. Let's do some tallying up in six-pack picks. We will do that coming up next. Invigorate Health in Mount Juliet. They are your one-stop shop if you are feeling old, if you're feeling overweight, if you're very self-conscious of your appearance, or if you're very self-conscious of just the way you feel. Like you feel old. You don't feel yourself anymore. Give my friends at Invigorate Health a call. They will take great care of you. Visit them at invigoratehealthtn.com. That's invigoratehealthtn.com. Go out there for a consultation. You know, they'll draw your blood, they'll check your levels. Maybe hormone replacement therapy is what you need. You need testosterone. You're a 42-year-old guy. You're losing your testosterone. Get back to like the way you felt when you were in your 20s. Maybe you've just got the belly fat, the hips fat, the wherever. They've got the M-Sculpt Neo, those machines that vibrate like crazy and that take care of that hard-to-get-off fat. You can see an average reduction in cellulite by 93% with the M-Sculpt Neo. They've got IV therapies. If you are sitting there saying, you know what, I need, it's good for your mental clarity. It's good for your entire body, your immune system, those IV therapies. Again, what they're going to do is for you. So if I were to tell you, okay, call Invigorate Health and they will give you that, that's not, no, because your body is different than his body, and they will make you feel young again. You won't be tired. You won't have that lack of energy. You won't have I'm telling you, you will feel great. Invigorate Health. Give them a call today. InvigorateHealthTN.com. That's InvigorateHealthTN.com. My friends, go over there. Tell them Jared Stillman sent you. That's Invigorate Health, and feel young again today. Stillman and Company again live at First Horizon Park where the Sounds take on Memphis tonight. Tune into this weekend's NFL Game of the Week brought to you by Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. This Sunday's Game of the Week, Cleveland and Kansas City. Coverage begins at 2:45 with a 3:25 kickoff. Caroline, last week we did a little six-pack picks that will be tallied at the end of the year because those were over-unders. This is the first week that we will do six-pack picks, picking our 6 NFL games, and six-pack picks is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. So without further ado, Ian, take us away.
All right, exciting times here as we begin our six-pack picks of the season. Game number 1, we will start noon, CBS, Steelers at the Bills, Buffalo minus 6.5. Caroline, her first time, she'll go first.
Give me Buffalo minus 6.5. I'm not incredibly high on the Steelers this year. I do think they have potential, but if we saw anything from the Bills last year, I mean, they're going to be a scary team. I force to be reckoned with. So give me the Bills minus 6.5.
I think the Steelers are one of those teams that
They're
don't
sneaky.
know that they're bad yet, and the Bills think that they're good, but they don't know like what their flaws are because everyone's been kissing their butt all off season. I think this is going to be a close game. I'll take the Steelers plus 6.5. I don't expect them to win, but I'll take the Steelers plus 6.5 with the thought being that this will just be like last night. Those two teams are not comparable, but it would have covered the 6.5 just because Tampa Bay made some mistakes. Everyone's been kissing their butt.
And weird things happen week 1.
It's week 1. Give me the Steelers plus 6.5.
Game number 2, Seahawks at the Colts, noon, Fox, Seattle minus 3.
So I'm going to take Seattle minus 3.
Yeah, I think that's
Chad
easy money.
I think Chad Withrow is off his rocker. Like, to me, the Seattle Seahawks, and yeah, they've had some dysfunction this offseason with the Jamal Adams stuff and the Dwayne Brown stuff and the Russell Wilson stuff. But one team has Russell Wilson at quarterback, and the other team doesn't. And one team has Pete Carroll at coach, and the other team doesn't. And so while I don't love Seattle with long flights, they're used to it. It's not like somebody going to Seattle, like next week when the Titans have to do that.
Yeah, which will be fun.
So I am going to take the Seahawks minus 3. I think this one is pretty simple. Give me Russ. And I am honestly, I think that Carson Wentz is going to be a mess in Indianapolis. And he didn't even practice much. Give me the Seahawks minus 3.
I'm taking the Seahawks minus 3, too. I think that's easy money.
Sticking in the NFC, the 3:25 Fox game, Packers at the Saints, which will be played in Jacksonville, Green Bay minus 3.5.
So before you answer this one, Caroline, I just want to say, this year, there's going to be 2 doubleheaders every week. So there will be a Fox game and a CBS late game. Crazy. Go ahead.
Give me Green Bay minus 3.5. This kind of feels like a line that may have been made like in 2020. Because I think the Saints are going to be, I don't think they're going to be absolutely terrible. They're definitely going to win some games. I don't think they're a playoff team this year, and I do think that Green Bay is. I picked them winning the NFC yesterday in our divisional round picks. So give me Green Bay minus 3.5.
So I'm going to get the emotional hedge here because I can't stand Green Bay. I can't stand Rodgers. I can't stand LaFleur. I can't stand the Packers. But, I mean, when Ian said Packers at Saints in Jacksonville, the number I thought in my head was 8. So
I was thinking, okay, if it's higher than 6.5, what do I do here?
Right. So the number for me was 8. If it was 8, it's New Orleans. If it was less than 8, it's Green Bay.
Yeah.
So when you're telling me 3.5,
I think that is also such easy money.
I am laying those points. Give me the Packers minus 3.5.
Going back to the AFC here, CBS, 3:25. Also heard right here, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Cleveland Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs. We got the Chiefs minus 5.5.
I will take the Browns plus 5.5. Upset special. Give me Cleveland to win against Kansas City on Sunday.
Spicy. I think this is going to be a really good game. But until I see something to make me believe that Kansas City isn't one of the best, if not the best team in the NFL, then I'll believe it, but I'll believe it when I see it. So I'm going to take, but the line is interesting. I think I might take Cleveland plus 5.5 too, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think Kansas City wins it, but I'm going to take Cleveland plus 5.5.
Monday Night Football this week. ESPN 7:15, the Ravens at the Raiders. Baltimore, even with the injuries, -4.
Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm gonna even with all of the injuries, I'm gonna take the Ravens. I'm gonna take the Ravens here because I'm not very high on the Raiders this year. I think they kind of stink. Even with the injuries, I think Baltimore wins it.
Give me the Raiders. Give me the Raiders +4 in this one just because I think the Ravens are an absolute mess right now. And as always, we finish up. And again, Six Pack Picks is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. We finish up with the game of the week.
That's right. Arizona Cardinals coming to town, noon, CBS. Titans, -3.
Give me the Titans -3. I think it might be a little bit of a slugfest like we saw last night. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Arizona's up by maybe a field goal at halftime. But I think the Titans win this one, and I think that we are going to start to see this new offense come together this weekend.
Give me the Titans in a blowout.
Okay.
Give me the Titans 31-13 this week.
Ooh.
I think the Titans just absolutely hammer the Arizona Cardinals. Titans 31-13. We're out of here. See you at 9:30 Sunday from Rock Bottom for the pregame show. Moneyline is next.